I see Brian and Ken. Where are they
Right
at?
there.
Okay.
Thank you, Terry.
Taping. Taping down.
Good. Thank you.
It only works when it's on there. So
All right. Okay. That works. Yeah, it's working. It's on.
Did you work all the time? Well, I mean, really like kind of, yeah, I'm working.
Don't be shy. Come on up front. Buy your seats. Yeah, we might have to open a window because it's
Had this much distance.
exactly.
Next, we don't even have food or anything. I used to always say maybe we should have potluck board meetings. We get people to come. Food.
Grilling with the board, right?
Yeah. That'd be cool. Grill out some chicken and burgers. Hot dogs. Guess I'm just gonna handle it. And yeah, oh, there's Ken. Nice full house. You like this?
Wow, it's warm in here.
It is with all the people in here. It's like, wow. Feels good to me. It feels good. My hands have been cold all night too. Right?
All right, ladies and gentlemen, the time is 7 o'clock. I'm going to call the meeting to order. Please rise and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Please be seated. Madam Clerk, may I have the roll call, please?
Marta Smith. Here. Ellen Poole.
Here.
Storm Peterson.
Here.
Chuck Schultz.
Here.
Mike Cunningham.
Here.
Marcy Husted here. And David Walker is absent.
Thank you. At this time, I'd like to suspend our regular board meeting and open up a public hearing. The purpose of the public hearing is to review the proposed Apple Orchard Improvement Project 2017 Special Assessment District and to hear objections. First of all, we have a few letters that I'd like to read. If the clerk would read the names and address so we can have them on the record.
Well, I have a group of letters here that it says this letter is letting you know that at this point I am in objection of having the road redone until after the multi-county drain project is
Yeah,
done.
just read the objections now, and then I'll ask you to read the ones that would like to wait. If you would do that.
Oh,
Thank you. One moment, please, sir. Oh, you can't hear? Okay.
okay. Paul Phelps, 9009 Apple Orchard. Wendy Selby, 9148 Apple Orchard Drive. Marilyn Willingham. I don't have her address listed. No, it's not.
You want it?
Sure.
Sure.
9120.
Thank you. And there was one more, I believe, from Mr. Selby at 9148 Apple Orchard Drive.
Is that for the objections?
Yes.
Okay, and then we have a couple of letters that are in favor, but would like to wait until the proposed inter-county drain has been either approved or not.
Okay, we have Earl Green.
Actually, that should be totally objection to it. As I read it, I misread what it meant. I meant it as,
Okay.
I'd rather,
Oh, that's okay. Okay, so we have
Stand corrected, this is an objection then.
Earl Green, 9033 Apple Orchard. And we're going back to objections.
Objections.
We have Celia Co. And what's your address? 9053 Apple Orchard, and William Co. at the same address.
Okay.
Okay, now.
Did anybody else here have a letter that they wanted to hand us? Okay, thank you.
Mine is in there and it's an objection.
Mine too.
Okay.
Okay,
Get that clarified.
what's the last?
Christine agreed.
Oh, I got your address.
9033.
Okay, and your name?
Dolores Croft, 9014.
Okay. Okay. All right.
Now we're going to go to the ones that are in favor but would like to wait until the proposed drain project is decided on or completed.
Okay, we have Don and Maureen Rassick, 9195 Apple Orchard. Frederick Morecambe, 9224 Apple Orchard. Carrie Sensor, 9138 Apple Orchard. Edward Naudzik, 9040 Apple Orchard. Amanda Waltrip, 9186 Apple Orchard. Dennis Lutz, 9210 Apple Orchard. Michelle Beeling, 9225 Apple Orchard. Darren Warford, 9011 Apple Orchard. Todd Whitting, 9006 Apple Orchard. David and Deborah Kiwiawa, 9213 Apple Orchard.
Okay, so now we'd like to take public comment. Please, when somebody is speaking, allow them the opportunity to speak. Take up to 3 minutes, and when you stand to speak, please give us your name and your address so we can put it on the record. So if you would like to start over here, is anybody in the front row like to speak on behalf of the project?
Earl Green, 9033 Apple Orchard. Well, a month or so ago, the township sent out a questionnaire with a special road improvement assessment. Now, if this goes through and that goes through, we're on the hook for both.
Correct.
So, and then now with the new gas tax, registration fees, we're on the hook for three. So we're already paying for it, is the way I look at it. And then this other one goes through, we're gonna be paying for it again, but at least it's everybody paying for it, rather than us shelling out $6,500 the next 10 years. That is the cost, correct? I haven't heard a definite cost on what the project is gonna cost and what it's gonna cost each property owner.
Right, that's the estimated cost.
Roughly $6,500 in 10 years. Now, that's paid yearly on your taxes?
Yes.
So,
Winter tax bill,
plus
right?
what percent interest?
I believe it's, right now, I think it's around 3.5%.
So you're talking over $650 extra. Think about it, buddy.
Anybody else along the front row? Second row. Sir, go ahead. Give us your name and your address, please.
William Cole, 9053, Apple Orchard. Basically, I was wondering what the procedure is. I haven't heard much about the drainage. Particularly since not many people in Apple Orchard Drive. That's going to be done. I assume we will have a choice as to how.
Right now, what the process is that there's an identified need to fix the drainage issues in there. It would be an inter-county jurisdictional agreement with Genesee County and Livingston County. People that live in Genesee County would be assessed if it goes through, as well as Livingston County. I believe 2/3 of the population is in Genesee County, so there's a good chance that most of that assessment will go to Genesee County. There are petitions, I believe, that have already started circulating for signatures for the drain. So that's the first step of the process.
Okay, I was told approximately
I don't have the preliminary costs. We're still trying to, the project has set cost yet. There's easements that still need to be secured, and there is a proposed route, and that may change. So once all that stuff has been figured out and calculated, they'll be able to figure out, narrow in.
I'm just still wondering what the ratio is of the affected, but for example, I'm in the woods, but I'm not affected by it. Although it might go through the back of my property, or it might go down where the road is, I don't know yet.
Well, you might not be affected now, but future development, you could be affected because the water needs to run off. You know, the more concrete, the more structure that we put, the ground becomes impervious to rainwater penetration, and then it goes into the drain. So we could talk about that in just a little bit.
Yeah, we've been here 26 years, and I don't.
Sure. Sure. Well, what we can do is we'll talk about the road project, and I actually have the deputy drain commissioner here and the drain commissioner here, and I think it would be appropriate, since that we have everybody here, that they could shed a little light on where they're at in the process and what's coming forward.
Okay, another thing that kind of came up was whether we were going to have the Cadillac Chevy road done. In other words, and how much, what's the difference in the cost? Like, obviously, it'd be better if you, I assume, I'd like to know basically how long, you know, what it involves, how long it would last for each one, and basically the cost of it.
Well, I can tell you that when they build a new road, they design it to a 20-year AASHTO standard, which means that the road basically is designed and built for 20 years. That's a complete road redone. Those, we have seen estimates that those are usually about 3 times more expensive. The Chevy plan that you speak of, we usually see 12 years. So if you do two Chevy plans, you'll end up getting more time than you will a Cadillac plan. Usually, that's, you know, kind of what we've seen. But every road is its own individual road, and it has different challenges, so we would have to look at that a little bit more in depth, but kind of just as a rule of thumb, that's what we have seen with our estimates on Heartland Road and Denton Hill and other roads. Thank you, you laid it up there for me. Anybody else in the second row? How about the third row, starting over here? Okay. Now we're back down at that end, third row, end.
You guys are saying anything? Okay, my name's Marilyn Willingham, 91. One of the problems that I have with the entire share of things that we had no control, one of them being the year that they decided to do the corner of you, but I don't know how many that year that corner was out of commission for. And during that time, trucks from Bentley Sand and Gravel, we had other tandem trucks. Trucks that were carrying these tankers full of water that were delivering water to places and probably swimming pools. All that traffic was funneled through our. And based on the kind of road we have, I think I don't think we should be responsible. Other thing is the cost that, I realize the cost isn't nailed down, but there's a clause in there that doesn't have to come based on the 200. If there were other hearings, then the cost just keeps going up without us having any control over it.
Yeah, we don't have that 10%. Usually the 10% is in something like, we put that in if it's a waste removal contract, something that is an annual contract, because we don't know what the costs are going to be for a 10-year period. So we do put that in there just so that we don't have to have another public hearing and incur the additional costs involved in having, well, you would incur those costs of having an additional public hearing, but that's not part of the language of this petition, because this is a one-time project, so the cost is going to be whatever the cost of the project is. It's not going to be something that's going to change over a period of time.
It says in here the, what I picked up from this in here.
In the,
Are you looking at the trash, or are you looking at the road?
It's probably basic language.
Public hearing upon a road.
Oh, she's
road
looking at the
improvement
letter.
project and special assessment district. And the fourth item in there is the plan and cost estimate. Says that periodic redeterminations of the cost of the project may be made and some not be required if the cost is redetermined of the cost of the project by more than 10%.
That's just standard language that we have in the letters that we send out, but that's not going to be, the 10% is not going to be a factor with a road project, because it's going to be a one-time cost. It's just going to be spread out over a period of 10 years, but it's not, the cost is not going to increase. So whatever the initial cost is, you don't have to worry in 2 or 3 years that that's going to go up.
I'm not
It's-
talking about 2 or 3 years.
Okay.
I'm talking about the initial cost can increase.
Well, we have the estimate from the road commission, and that's where the $225,000 estimate came from. Now, that I don't know, you have more experience working with the road commission on projects. When they give an estimate, is it usually pretty?
It's usually good for the year.
Okay.
Is that, excuse me,
I'm sorry, I didn't understand you.
The lifelong, the life expectancy of it is probably the 12-year.
It'll probably be, well, I haven't talked to the road commission on what they bid on that. It's either going to be a 12-year fix, a 15-year fix, or a 20-year fix.
If you can find it from Jody.
Oh, I can't get in there because we don't have
Yeah, the internet's
internet
down.
access.
don't have the
I do. I just can't get to it on this computer right now.
10% doesn't apply, can you just strike it?
And we can make that modification when, this is just basically an informational meeting, so when we actually send out the notices for the public hearing to make a decision whether we move forward or not, we can modify that letter.
We don't qualify for no grants or no help from anybody. You know, our state representative, they can't do nothing to help, you know, offset at least some of the cost or something. I mean, I agree the road needs to be done, but it's just, I know it's like a small
Yeah.
road, everybody says, well, it's a small project, this, that, everything. It's a small project, you'd be in and out in a couple days. I mean,
If it was a county primary road, I think we'd have a better chance of finding.
is it a public road or a private road? I've been told both things.
I believe they're public roads, isn't it?
Does the county plow the snow?
Yeah.
Is it a subdivision?
It's a subdivision.
It's a subdivision. Does a subdivision have an association?
No.
No.
Is there a road maintenance agreement that is in existence for that road as a
I heard
subdivision?
it was grandfathered in that the county would plow the road,
Okay, so
Probably
it might
county.
not be the county's road.
Might not be.
but I've never heard definite that it's a public or private road. County.
And it's a
County road, otherwise they wouldn't patch it.
Just looking for some help.
Yeah, we were always looking for those.
Nice.
A lot of the help for grants usually comes on primary roads and highways and things like that.
Is there other subdivisions getting done or just ours?
Lake Shannon is looking at one.
And they're going through the same thing we are then?
Yes, they're going to go through the same process, yeah.
We don't know if that's private or public out there, we don't know, correct?
They're-
That's private, I think. That has an HOA.
Yeah.
They have an HOA
Yeah.
over there. I think it's private.
Yeah.
We did have, Jane Hill, in their 10-year SED is completed, but they had paving over at the Farm Hill.
Park and Lane did it.
Park and
And Park
Lane.
and Lane is currently paying on a 20-year. Yeah. But I think the Farm Hill subdivision over there is like plowed by the county, but they did the petition and did a special assessment with their repaving of the roads in their subdivision. And that's been completed now for 2 years. So that's a project from our history that's
Of a
been done.
racetrack, and then if the Rock Church happens to get their
They do
church
their
in where they
trunk and
want,
treat and- yeah.
their driveway's right across from our road, you know how Bennett Lake Road and Leonard will back up when they do the regular services, people are gonna be cutting back and forth through there just to avoid that corner.
2 years ago, you couldn't even get down the road because of the drunken tree. People were parking in my yard and,
Couldn't even have a driveway.
yeah,
Even if we get them to help.
yeah, that's a good idea.
Okay.
So is there any way that, sorry, Liberty. Even though I've voiced my opinion about maybe it should be shared, like with the road commission or somebody whoever should have been in charge of keeping those big trucks out of our sub. Is that just a comment I'm making, or can something be done to try and get them to share thoughts?
You could definitely ask them, I don't know what they're going to say. I mean,
Part of what, I mean, you're the ones that are trying to
It's-
take care of this, right?
The township actually takes on petitions
We're
because
taking
the
petition,
residents
the county,
want this
yeah.
done. Townships usually don't want to do SADs because then that puts responsibility on us to collect it. And if someone chooses not to pay their taxes, now I have to advance money from the county and pay interest to the county when those aren't paid.
Right.
So townships usually don't want to have to do special assessments, but when you're in a rural area and you want to have a service, and if it can't be provided fully for everyone in the township, special assessments are a popular way to get a service. So we sort of just wait for residents to approach us if they want a service for a designated area. And then it's sort of the responsibility of the resident to oversee and get enough people to want to do it, and then we will guide you along with legal and getting the resolution set and then collecting on the tax bills. But, you know, like the garbages is more, they have to deal with the contract. It's more of the residents that are wanting the service have to sort of handle it.
And as far as the county roads go, they are the jurisdiction of the county. They're responsible for all the roads that are not private. I could call over there just like any other person and say, hey, you know, we'd like money for this road or money for that road. But, you know, when groups of people show up, it seems to work a lot better. And sir, you had,
Lawrence Longrick, 9107 Apple Orchard. Marilyn brings up a good point, because anytime there's an issue with the public road or the primary roads, Apple Orchard is always used as a byway to get from. And it is for our road, and that we do have to subsidize this road on our own. We should have some kind of compensation from the township or the county. Whether it's an accident at Linden and Bennett Lake Road, or an accident at White Lake and Bennett Lake Road, or Owen Road, or Lobdell Lake Road, Apple Orchard becomes affected. Trucks, etc., because it's still a point in the area, and it's going to continue to grow in the area. Irrigation of the road for the future to come.
I was talking to a gentleman that goes to the building across Linden Road there, and they have several services, and they all the buildings they're using now. The congestion is going to increase exponentially.
yes, sir.
Phelps, 9009 Apple Orchard. My wife and I have concerns about the drain coming in and the construction traffic that may come down our street, a new road being redone, and then have to possibly be cut up to put a culvert through there, or we don't know the complete scope of the drainage yet. So there could be a fair amount of extra construction traffic. Another concern is the number of trash trucks up and down our street, 8 to 10 a week. 4 or 5 different companies coming in, with trash and recycling. That's, I mean, if you watch a trash truck, they mash on the gas and they stomp on the brakes. And on an asphalt road, that's particularly, bad for them. Other issue that brought up was the increased traffic, especially with the church. And as I understand, the county wants their access to their property right at the intersection on Linden Road. Apparently with traffic flow, it's better to have a driveway opposite each other than, up or down the street. but that creates more possible traffic on the road. And just the other was about the possible county money being used to help pay for this. Because they are paying for patching right now. Other dirt roads get graded on a regular basis, which is county money that we are all paying for.
Now we're on to the fourth row. We'll start over here at the corner. Does anybody have anything to say?
I agree with the garbage pickup.
Ma'am, can I have your name and address, please?
Oh, I'm sorry. Deborah Piava at 9213 Apple.
Thank you.
Like they say, we have 4 garbage companies that go up and down the road, so they kind of take the garbage pickup and then the recycling. And then in the fall and in the spring, you have the yard debris pickup. So we're getting tons of trucks up and down the road that's tearing the road up. You know, so whether the road's done now or later, we need to help maintain the road. I do have a petition here tonight, anyone that wants to sign, try to go to one garbage company. Because that, I think, would cut down a lot on the road. But like they say, with the church building, a great big building, we're going to have a lot of traffic up and down the road from the church. You know, they're going to cut the corner so they don't have to go down Bennett Lake to London Road. Cut the corner to go through the church. And I've seen many, many big trucks. I'm home all day long. I work from home, and I'm looking out the front window all day. And we have these great big trucks that go down the road all the time, cutting the corner. You know, they're going to Linden Road, so they turn down our road, go down the road to Linden Road, and they're on through. So we're getting a lot of traffic that is not neighborhood traffic. I feel someone should come up with extra money for that. Nothing else, we need some signs put up that no truck traffic through there.
Excuse me. Got tickled. I'm sorry, sir. Sir, can you wait till I call you? I'd like to get through, and then I'll come back through, and because I know there's a lot of people who really have things to say. Over here. Coming down this, anybody? Yes, sir.
More questions than objections. Can I have?
Sure.
Okay, Ted Selby, 9148 Apple. That's probably the only one I didn't know anything about the drain until now. Is the drain proposed and it's going to happen?
It is a proposed drain. We don't know what's going to happen at this point.
Do you know if it's going to happen before the road or not the road?
We're still trying to figure all that out.
Okay. Is the road proposed to a timetable at all?
Not yet. Nope. But earlier I mentioned, once we get done with the comments and we close the public hearing, I'll let our drain commissioners talk a little bit about the project, where they're at, and what to expect. Okay?
Regarding money-wise, when would you, time of, it seems like everything takes forever. Once it's agreed upon, do you have, anybody have any idea how long it'd take for the road to start?
We potentially could be looking at this fall, but there's a lot that has to happen before we get to that point, but potentially that as early as this fall.
Okay. At what point is the lot, because it's not the lot, it's the person, right? Lot that's going to be paying for the money come from the owner of the lot or the person? I was told it's the person.
It's the parcel.
If you sell your house, you're going to be still liable for the bill.
Yeah.
No, it goes with the parcel. The assessments will stay with the parcel.
Okay, and that's guaranteed? There'll be tax?
I think by statute it is. Yeah, I don't think you can just say you're going to pay this and then,
So that's
yeah.
what I wanted
So
to
that
know.
was told, you sell, you still pay.
no, it would be, it's just the property, we assess the property.
Property ID.
So, yeah, it stays with the
Parcel.
property.
Proposed 10-year?
I believe so, yes. Okay, we'll go to the back now. Anybody? Yes, sir.
Ron Bumyak, 9134 Apple Orchard. You're not the only one. I had not heard anything about the drain project either overnight, so I don't think it got all the way through the subdivision. More of a question, and it relates to the cost of the project. Where do we find the information on, like the quoting process? How many companies were quoted? How many bids came back? Who reviewed the bids? The detail that's within a bid. And the selection criteria for whoever has this job?
Right now, I believe we only have a preliminary estimate for the road commission, correct?
Correct.
Correct. So,
Road commission that does all this for us?
well, the process is, the road commission, if 50% or more of the project is funded by the residents, they get to put it out to bid. The law allows you to do that. So the road commission can bid on it, and other contractors can bid on it. We use the road commission just to get an idea, a ballpark of kind of what we're looking at, to see if there was interest to proceed with the project. So let's say there is enough interest and we're going to go forward with it. Then we would put that out to bid. Okay, and it would have to be built to the road commission standards. And, they would definitely oversee that project because they'd be involved with,
Inspection.
decelerations, inspections, adjusting any traffic that need to be adjusted. And it would go out to bid, and then there would be a selection process after that. That answer your question?
Baseline, but
Right.
there still could be more bids that'll be going out with
Sure.
their statement requirements, whatever the road commission deems is necessary.
Correct.
Okay. All that public knowledge, can we find that?
Oh, absolutely, it will be, yeah.
Where does that exist?
Well, once we put that out, we'll have the bids here. So they'll be part of a board agenda, a board packet.
Or the clerk's office would
Yes.
have the information.
Yep.
Good.
Okay, anybody else back row? Yes, sir.
9021 Apple Orchard. The objections are already heard, have to be superfluous, but Marcy's letter did say if we object, it must be in writing before the end. Do that now.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, and then coming back the back row back there. Yes, sir.
Tony Skillinger, 9183. Question I have is, where are we at on this process? I'm not familiar with it. What would be the next stage or the next steps to get full approval to go forward? Already been approved and it is a full go.
Right now, it's just a public hearing. I don't know, do we have the required signatures?
We do.
Okay, so we have the required signatures, so next would be, go ahead.
Well, right now we have the required signatures, but we also have people who signed the petition who are asking that we wait to do the road project until the drain project is completed. So, so I'm not quite sure.
We'll have to get legal
Exactly.
counsel to determine.
Oops.
Yeah.
Because we have to approve the project too. So, don't have a crystal ball, but I think there's definitely a big concern. If we're going to do a drain project, we really want to look at the timing of this, because it just, I've seen situations where, people get the road in and then they come in and they tear it up. And it gets repaired, but it's just not that brand nice new road. So, that would definitely be a topic of discussion for the township board, definitely.
Would there be a public vote, an official public vote from us on this project?
No, once you get the required signatures, that's enough to initiate the project going forward, so.
If you find out something that's detrimental to the road, that card wasn't played at the time that we agreed.
We're not fully informed.
And that's why we're having this meeting tonight, so that
Right.
you can be informed.
But what I heard was.
No.
What I heard was we have the required signatures to go forward, and that to me doesn't make good sense.
No, it just means that we can move forward and we could have a public hearing. But ultimately, it's the board who's going to make a decision as to whether we proceed or not, and when we decide we're going to do that. So just because we have the required signatures doesn't mean that it's going to go through.
And that's the importance of the board hearing what you have to say tonight, and if we have another public hearing.
Because we have to.
'Cause we have to base a
The board has to approve
decision.
the special assessment district.
Right, and we need to know, you live there. You need to voice your concerns, write us communications, so that this board can make a decision on what you want.
So I think that's helpful, because as other people have mentioned, I had not heard about the drain project prior to today. I think maybe I misunderstood, or the information wasn't conveyed correctly, but I was also under the impression that the loan, or the amount of money owed, followed the person, the owner, not the property. And maybe I misunderstood that, but I know somebody else had mentioned that as well. That's the way I understood it. So
No.
there is some new information that.
Yeah, we would definitely assess the parcel. So, and if you sold that property, that assessment stays with that parcel, and you go your way, and whoever moves in assumes that. Finish the back row up. Anybody else in the back row? Okay, go over here on the side.
I don't live there, but I got some information for you.
Scott Dietrich, address, please.
I'm gonna tell you. Scott Dietrich, 13505 White Lake Road. Soren and I live on White Lake Road. We had our road paved. They went to the year before I moved in, they went to the county paid for half of it. Primary road, now it's primary. Now you go to county, you're gonna probably be the Cadillac plan. Drains underneath, you're gonna have the curbing and all. So that costs us $10,000 each. And that was a Cadillac plan. Okay. Getting back to the drainage district. I don't know how far it is, but do you guys know if you're paying for that?
That's what we want to know.
Yeah, because if you're in that drainage district, that's going to be divided over all the residents in that district unless the county's doing it. So that's additional cost you're paying. Number three, the garbage truck issue's been brought up many times before. I just seen a new company the other day. We gotta have 6, 7 garbage trucks coming up and down these roads. It's outrageous. I mean, I'm the busiest road ever. And the fact that you guys, I sympathize with you on the truck traffic, because we got signs at each end of our road. We paid for half of it. And they're supposed to be police patrolled. They're not supposed to come through there. And the 18-wheelers roll through there every day. So, yeah, I would definitely go to the county to be prepared for the Cadillac plan. Okay. So I'm just giving you some information. It'll be done right. I mean, I live next to one of the drains, so it's in my yard, but it's a little bit, but it is what it is. Make sure they do it right, you know. And you're living with it, but that's all.
So if these big trucks are coming through, maybe this road is a...
It is, but when we blacktopped our road, it's supposed, the county, by law, the state told the townships that they have a right to designate truck routes, so we can save our roads. So we can designate, am I right?
The county and the state designate them.
Yeah. Well, then we don't designate.
Yeah, we don't have any say.
But they have a right to do it, so we have designated truck routes here. I don't know if you guys know that, but the truck drivers don't. And they don't. And you know what they do? They say it's the cost of doing business. They'll pay the small fine and blow through their aim. So like I said, they can put signs along onto your subdivision. You can call the police all day long. They're gonna keep buzzing through there. So just be prepared. Well,
Okay,
sorry to attest to that.
before we go back through, if anybody has anything new, I'd be willing to address it, but, you know, we've hashed out a few things, we have an agenda that we need to get to, but coming back to the front, sir, you...
Yeah, Bill Crop, 9014. Is this is for her, this drain proposed, are we gonna be assessed with that, and that's on top of also?
You would be.
It could be.
Yeah.
So theoretically, we could be assessed on the road, and then on the drain, and then on something else that might happen, and, you know.
Trash, if that goes through.
Neighborhood before we get all done.
That could happen. Yes, sir. I'm sorry, were you done?
Like I said, not much was know anything what's going on with this drain thing.
Right, well, and we'll get to it. Yes, ma'am.
9053 Apple Orchard. If we sign the petition and now we object to it, is our name taken off that petition? And if enough people object to it and you don't have enough signatures on the petition, are you still going forward with it?
We haven't decided to do anything at this point,
Well, I
so.
mean, would you?
Um,
Let's say you do not have the number that you need to go forward with.
Then it- yeah.
Because people here are objecting to it, because we knew nothing about the
Sure.
drainage thing. When we
Some
okayed
people-
it, because the road does need work.
Some people wouldn't sign
Absolutely.
for the first one if they knew what.
Right.
Exactly.
And
It's too much.
we'll have to
That's a
seek,
John-
we'll seek
John
legal
Harris.
counsel because we do have this drain issues come in to play. And now these people are concerned, like, wait, I want to object. I wanted the road to get done, but I'm going to object because there might be this other project. We're going to seek legal counsel. We'll confirm, does that strike your name from the petition now?
That's what I would like to
Yeah,
know.
and we will confirm that through legal, because this is kind of a different situation, so we're not 100% sure how we're supposed to deal with that, so we'll seek legal advice on that.
There's something, I think, Larry, probably gave, and I'm pretty sure all the information he had.
So will you let us know?
Sure.
Yep. Yes.
Oh, yeah.
Yes.
Whether we're off the list, are we still on the list?
Yes.
Do we have enough?
Yeah.
If I understood it, you needed 53% or something.
Yeah, we need at least 51, and we had 54 and a half, I think, so it was really close. Right,
Hey, we could be,
right.
we have to go back and look at it.
Yep, so I've got the list of those who objected, and I will compare it to the petition, and then I will contact our legal counsel and get direction from him. But I do know who objected, and I should have phone numbers. If not, we'll send you something in the mail.
Okay.
You're welcome.
Excuse me, if it went through, the assessment is equally on each homeowner or each property as opposed to footage?
For the road?
Yeah. for
I
the
believe
road.
that's how the language is written.
By how many
I just-
lots, right?
Okay.
Yeah.
Just wanted to verify that.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, my name's Richard Verrill. I live at 9075 Apple Orchard Drive. And before everybody starts wanting to rescind their names and stuff, give Mr. Rucker a chance to give his presentation about the Drain Commission too, because there's going to be other meetings on this drain. And the majority of it is not going to affect Apple Orchard Drive so much. It's, what is it, Appleview Lane, I think it is, or Apple Orchard Lane? Orchard Park Lane. It's there, and it's up here, and it's the north, mostly to the north of us. I mean, the water runs right down the back of my backyard, and runs down to.
But does that mean that we all pay for it, though?
I don't know. We have to wait and
That's
see what, because that's.
Because
like
we
he
don't
did, I know,
have a problem.
He told me.
You know, I would kind of urge the drain questions till we get to the presentation part and the discussion part from the Drain Commissioner's office. Anything else on the road? Okay, with that being said, we'll go ahead and close the public hearing. And we'll go to the approval of the agenda. I would like to add discussion on the engineering, continued engineering discussion, and then discussion on future drain of Orchard Park, and we'll move that to new business item number 1, because there's a amount of people here, and I'd like to have them hear this. And then we'll just move everything down. 1 will be 2, 2 will be 3, 3 will be 4, et cetera, et cetera.
Okay, I make motion to approve the agenda as amended.
Been motioned and supported to approve the agenda as amended. Any further discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Next is approval of the consent agenda, the regular board meeting minutes from January 17th, 2017, and the treasurer's report. Support. Been motion and supported to approve the consent agenda. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed? Next, communications. Livingston County Sheriff's Report from December 2016.
Move to place on file communication number 1.
Support. Been motion and supported to receive and place communications items number 1 on file. Any further discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Next is public remarks. Anybody have any comments about other than roads?
I just want to be able to ask maybe a few questions on the spark that comes up, if I have a question. I was here when they first developed it. I just want to hear what you guys have to say, and I want to see what he has to say before I don't know if I want to ask any, but I want to know what's been going on all these years. And I kind of like the whole, I know we keep feeding money to you guys. It's been a lot of years, and I don't see much development here. So, in all fairness, I'd like to at least be able to ask a question, because I know every year we keep giving them money, but I don't see any development, so.
I would wait till we do the presentation. I think that they'll be able to cover it. And if somebody would like to ask a question, I feel that they have, we could do that at that time. Thank you, Scott. Okay, we have no unfinished business, so we're going to move to our new business. We're going to go ahead and allow Ken Recker to talk a little bit about this proposed drain project, if he's up for the task, which I believe he is.
Brian.
And we'll have Brian Junk here as well.
Brian Junk here, County Drain Commissioner. I'm going to let Ken talk about any details that are specific to the drain, but I wanted to talk to you about the process of establishing a county drain. Very, very different from this process here that you're talking about, other than it is a special assessment. And it's very different from any type of road project. County drains do not work on a funding situation where you get an X amount of money from the state. We get no money, no pool of money from the state. But theoretically, we could do, if we're petitioned for it, any amount of work. And that work, the cost for that work is assessed back to local units of government and any benefited properties. Okay, so it's a very different concept. It's also different from the perspective, this comes out of the early 1800s when this was a very different place. Probably the majority of this county was wetlands and they were dealing with malaria. Okay, in fact, much of Michigan was that way, being the fifth wettest state in the Union. So what the drain code did, and it has evolved since mid-1800s, but it's different in the fact that it allows a minority to petition. So this is not a popularity contest. What this recognizes, especially from the agricultural point of view, is that relatively few people who are down farming the low areas are impacted by everybody else that are up in the higher areas. That water flows down and impacts them, okay? One thing always happens, it doesn't matter what drainage issue we're talking about, it's never deviated in any way, under my experience in the last 20 years, but the fact of the matter is, if you're dealing with water, it's in your home, it's on your property, you're always pointing towards the hill. Obviously, that's where the water's coming from. If you're on the hill, people on the hill rarely have seen a need for a fix to the problem. That's because their water ends up on somebody else. So, you know, human nature is what it is, and that's what the drain code is. Where this project is currently is there was an initial petition that was born out of a lawsuit, ongoing lawsuit, and that petition, this process is a 2-petition process. The first petition just instructs our office to go out and figure out what the watershed is. So where is all this water coming from and where does it go? So essentially, we hire an engineer to find out, looking at the topos, who's contributing water and where does it ultimately go. That is the watershed, or under the drain code, the district. So that defines the people that are part of this solution, okay? So if you have land in that district, and this case it extends into Genesee County, then your property is liable for an assessment in the end. We don't get a choice in that. We have to. What we assess it is a whole nother issue, and that gets more complicated. But since this crosses a county border, it brings in Genesee County now. Okay, so it's not just in a normal drain inside the county. When we get petitions, I appoint a board, and that board listens to testimony, makes a decision whether the project goes forward. It's a little bit different. This involves our office, the Genesee County's office, and then the third person, in case there's a tie, is the Department of Ag. They actually sit on the Board of Determination, the one that actually makes this decision. So no decision has been made. There's been one petition that says find out who is involved, and based on that, that tells us how many signatures we need for the second petition. Assuming we get a second petition, then we would have the hearing where everyone would be noticed. You'd get a first-class mailing notice, and it would also be in the paper. And we would take testimony about whether it's necessary to move forward. And then once that decision is made, if they elect to go forward, then that's instruction to our office in Genesee County to move forward with a solution to the drainage problem. Okay, so it's quite different from anything else. Road Commission has a budget to determine what piece goes here, what goes here. Not us. We can construct a project. We do that by borrowing money, issuing notes. We construct it, and then it's assessed back over a number of years. So again, very, very different. Our next step, assuming we get a petition, if we don't get a petition from either the people or a local unit of government, then the project stalls. Doesn't matter what we want, we can't move it forward. So it's really reliant on the people to push that forward. That's basically how it works. After that hearing, if it was determined the project was necessary, we would design it, go out for bids, and then construct it. Now, as for who pays, roughly a third of the district is in Livingston County. So, and this is typically how it works, let's say the project was $1 million. If we had a third of the district, then the Livingston County portion would be subject to about 33% of the district. It's in that area. The rest would be to residents in Genesee County. Now, so we've got the 33%. So let's say it's $330,000. That's spread in different ways. We spread that to local units of government for health, safety, and welfare of its residents. So the townships usually get a fairly big chunk of that. The county gets even a bigger chunk usually for road benefits. If MDOT has a road, they would get assessed. And then the remainder would go to the property owners. So, I guess in a way, this might be the only grant you're going to see is units of government would be paying for a portion of this. So if our portion was $330,000, you would be looking at about $180,000 or $1,000 maybe in that area that all the residents in the district within Livingston County would be sharing. The rest would be going into Genesee County and Township. So that's generally how it's split up. So very different process. Again, a petition by the minority. And when we have the hearing, this isn't necessarily a popularity contest because we know what happens if you have two people flood it out. The majority say, I don't need to pay for this. The project's never going to happen. And that's not the premise of the drain code. The drain code is there to take care of issues. Now, if the problem is mitigated, you move the house, you make a park out of it, you raise it, put it on stilts or whatever, and they say, hey, no problems anymore, then there's probably no need to go forward with a project. So that's kind of where we're at right now. we're looking at kind of a conceptual design, so we can get some idea of cost. Because, as you know, when we're running a drain across country, we're crossing properties, and so that means you have to get easements. And if somebody doesn't want to give you an easement, then it gets more expensive. So trying to figure out how to do it least costly as possible right now is what we're doing. Other than that, we're on hold until we get signatures. So I know Ken has a district map back there that kind of shows who all is involved in this, and he can probably answer questions related to the district and who's involved, that type of thing, but very, very preliminary at this point.
So this isn't something that everybody's going to necessarily be able to see. I know that the clerk and the supervisor have seen it. But there's a red line on this map, and we'll post this map on the website so everyone can see it. We'll share a link with the township. This red line here
Can you hold that up a little bit, Ken?
Sure. It goes over to down Bennett Lake Road. This is Hoisington Lake right here in the lower left corner. Over here is the gravel pit, and this is your Apple Orchard subdivision. And this is the Orchard Park site condominium. Basically, the genesis of this is this retention basin is overflowing, and it's impacted 2 homes, flooded them multiple times. I'm not sure how many times. Gordon Tomaszewski's here from the Orchard Park Homeowners Association. He may be able to speak to that. But basically, there is a tributary, there's a watershed coming down from Genesee County, and it crosses the county line, more or less behind Mr. Burrell's house. And right now, when that crosses into Livingston County, it takes a left to the east, and it goes into a collection system that's part of that Orchard Park sub, and goes into that retention basin. So basically, the intent, assuming we make it a petition for to actually construct a fix, is to take this water and take it down to wetlands that are tributary to Hoisington Lake to the south. So that's the general overview of the problem and the conceptual fix at this point. There is no final design because we don't have a second petition.
The green path is going to be yet? We wanted to get there.
We do have a tentative path, and I have shared that with certain folks. I know I talked to Mr. Phelps. I think Mr. Burrell and Tomaszewski have seen that at the meeting. That's something else that we'll get up on the website so more of you folks can see that information. But keep in mind, anything that we put up, because we don't have a petition, we only have received the petition that delineates this red line, this service area, if you will, or the district, as Commissioner Jackson. We don't have a petition to build the drain yet. So any lines we put on paper are tentative, in the pure sense of the word.
Where are the problems?
Yeah. The problems are
Basically in that one area?
in this Orchard Park condominium. This basin was designed as what we call a retention basin. Okay, basins do not have an outlet. They discharge the infiltration into the ground. What happens with this basin is it accumulates enough water that water actually goes into a couple of the adjoining houses to that basin. It's in a large part because there was a larger area contributing to this system that comes into Livingston County than was originally envisioned.
So basically that's it?
The retention basin in the Orchard Park condominium is the reason for the litigation, and it's the reason we got the the application to lay out the drainage district.
And this involves
It involves Genesee because their water ends up in that retention
Was that
basin.
not foreseen when that was built?
No. In 1999, when that condominium was approved, the state of the art for determining what your off-site areas were going into a development was based on USGS topographic mapping, which I don't know if any of you have ever hiked. They're 10-foot interval contour maps. They're not detailed. There's a lot of room for error when you're delineating a tributary off a USGS topographic map.
And I imagine that is the only solution we have.
Well, we looked at a couple preliminary solutions when this problem first came up. Both of them really involved going through the apple orchard subdivision. There was a third kind of concept of boring a line a quarter-mile over to Marl Lake. But basically, you've got to go to a lower water body. And the lower water bodies that are most easily accessible are Boisington Lake, Gravel Pit, or Marl Lake. So you've got to find, if you want to make water move, it's got to go downhill. And the only ways to go downhill here are to the south. Southwest, south, and southeast.
Really, the fact is, for the most part is going to be the folks in Orchard subdivision part. The Genesee County's got some folks, but the folks that are to the west, that's a lot of empty land.
Over
right?
here?
Yeah.
Well, this is the Rock Church parcel over here. That's 51 acres, I want to say, is what the Rock Church parcel is, so that's...
Assessed by acre, not by person?
Well, what the drain code says is the drain code says we have to assess on the principle of benefit derived. That's the guidance the drain code gives. Typically, is acreage a factor in the concept of benefit derived? Yes. But whether or not there's a parking lot there versus whether it's farm, whether it's forest, there's a number of different factors that can go into how you assess a drain to benefit. Acreage is one factor.
That seems like also.
Oh, there could very well
because,
be.
the Rock Church would be huge. That's, I have 2 people who in my house as opposed to 150 people.
But right now, it kind of, there's a timing question to ask, We don't have a second petition. It could take a few months to get a second petition. It could take a year or two to get easements.
Theoretically, there's a handful of people that's affected by this right now.
There's, I would say,
based
on the litigation that I've discussed with folks in the Orchard Park homeowner association, there's a few houses, but the individual in Orchard Park that's filed litigation sued folks in a Genesee County site condominium. They sued basically the homeowners association of Orchard Park. So, the entire condominium's involved there, and then if he lawsuit, this other condominium up here will be involved.
Well, everybody in that red district will be involved, will be assessed, correct?
If we get a second petition, to construct a drain, everybody in that box will be assessed,
Because the one line, the main line goes through the property and then along where the existing church, is their property exempt from the assessment?
Church properties I'm not a tax law expert, but church properties are exempt from what we call ad valorem taxes or school millages, those sorts of things. Church properties aren't exempt from drain special assessments. We assess church properties every year.
On your main
for
line,
drainage.
they're probably a third of that main line. that
They're a substantial portion of the land, they're the biggest landowner on the Livingston County side of the line, that's correct.
Litigation is what precipitates the whole thing with the drainage.
Litigation is what, basically the legal counsel for the Orchard Park Condominium Association told them, you turn in this Chapter 5 petition, start the process for establishing a drain, and that's your defense, because that's the only solution that will address the problem. That's correct.
No, I'm sure Rich and I am was after the horse farm used to be there. Now, then when the condominiums came in, that catch basin never substantial. Perhaps the amount of water, I don't care if you were walking it off by hand, foot, or it was never enough. All of the water that happened immediately. Can you increase the catch?
Given the elevations of the adjoining structures, going to have to go down, and when you go down at the depth that current basin is, you start going into the water table.
Okay.
When you go into the water table, you don't.
Yes. That catch basin's been there forever, Chris. It's been there forever. And what it is one of the guys out back on Louddale Road I went to school with, he said right behind my house, he said they used to swim there. They used to be 3 or 4 feet deep.
Yeah.
And that's why when I moved in, I brought in like $10,000 worth of dirt to build that up so we could get it to flow. 'Cause that's the only way it could go, was down behind in that area. Now, when they built this new subdivision, the Appleview one, the Apple Park one, that's where they made the mistake. It was even selling a couple of those lots.
You built in a swamp,
There's
that's what's
nothing to
gonna
do about it.
Ken, I've got a question, and it's kind of hypothetical, but if that district builds out, new condos, new homes, businesses or whatever, what is the potential impact that other homes in the district will be impacted by flooding and runoff issues?
First answer to the question is it would depend on where that new development occurs. If it occurs on,
Within the drainage of this district?
The area that I would see that would be most, there's 2 areas kind of towards the northeast, northwest. The northwest is, don't have a ton of familiarity with this area, but I want to say Mueller's Orchard. Does that sound right?
Yep.
Okay. So, Mueller's Orchard is going to drain down towards Linden Road, and it's going to come south, and it's eventually going to be picked up by this system. So if you have something fairly intensive that happens with Mueller's Orchard, if it's not carefully metered out, there could be some issues between Mueller's Orchard and where it hits the drain on the Rock Church property.
What about up in the Fenton area?
Towards the northeast, I talked to the planner at Tyrone Township. I want to say, what's the name, Valerie? Does that sound right? I talked to somebody up there at Fenton Township who did their planning and zoning, and the general impression I got from her was that area was largely built out. There might have been a potential for a few more splits, but there's not really the potential for another Fox Chase Farms to develop towards that northeast quadrant is very slim. You'd have to have probably 5 or 6 5-acre landowners get together and agree to pool something, and then that's probably fairly remote to start with.
One of the other topics that have come out in the meetings are some of the ice dams that this will address down along Bennett Lake Road. Did you want to talk about that a little bit?
Yes. One of the things that we noticed, it's not a closed facility, but there's an old greenhouse
Yes.
I want to say, in a low spot on Bennett Lake Road, and there's some old, antiquated, well, it's redundant, but there's some drainage infrastructure in the vicinity of that low spot, and when we talked to the owner of that abandoned greenhouse, he mentioned how he pulls a couple trucks a year out of the roadside ditch when they slide in there, because apparently that spot's pretty icy. And, you know, if that's the way that we end up coming through, if we do end up getting that second petition, be able to address that spot on Bennett Lake Road and provide enough drainage to reduce the ice accumulation on the pavement in that area.
Now, just so, you know, just to cover up on the roads a little bit, say this project is a go, what can the residents expect as far as road cuts, ditches, things that would impact a new road?
Well, what we would endeavor to do if the road project goes forward is, I don't like having cuts in asphalt named after me. So in all likelihood, we would put something like a sleeve under the potential location of a future crossing in the road, so we could slip pipe there at such time as we knew the project was a go and we had the easements on either side of the road. There would have to be some kind of contract probably between the drain district and the township to facilitate that, but we could do things to minimize damage in terms of a future road crossing.
So let's say we go forward with the project, and we're gonna see semis, trailers, excavators, big backhoes?
Depending on yeah, there's gonna be heavy machinery, because there's gonna be, you know, at least 18 to 24 inch pipe, maybe 36 to 42
Dirt and
inch
mud, all
pipe.
in that new black top.
Dirt and mud, yeah. We're conceptually at this point, there is along the southwest corner of your subdivision, there is a linear park. Outlot 8, sound right? I don't know if it was one of the guys, you live by lots 1 or 2 to the south. So that detention basin is filled with, we estimate, probably 18 to 24 inches of sediment over the last 20 to 30 years. So we would dig that basin out and we would relay a pipe going to that basin, put a larger pipe on the discharge end of that basin, and from that point where that drain leaves Apple Orchard Drive, we would have to find our way up to the Orchard Park subdivision based on the cooperation, whatever cooperation we could obtain from the lots to the northeast.
So this is a pretty big project. I mean, this is going to take a while to get.
It's not going to happen overnight, absolutely.
So that's something we ought to be aware of, what we be assessed for this on top of it.
Now, keep in mind, parts of the sub, not a whole lot, but the part particularly near the southeast quadrant isn't, we believe this drainage, based on the topographic information we have, that far south corner drains to the south towards towards the gravel pit. So those parcels at this point in time wouldn't be assessed for the drain.
Where are you guys going to push the drain through on that porch, or is that big pipe going to go through it?
There's an existing, if everything falls into place, there's an existing pipe in an existing easement.
Can you hold that up again?
Yeah. Yeah, the existing pipe is almost at the bottom of this horseshoe on the east side here. And it comes down and it goes into this long, skinny detention basin. So we would replace this pipe, probably upsize it a little bit, but we still have to get from the point where it crosses at the bottom of this horseshoe back up to that retention basin.
So that pipe's going to stop right back up, or right by the Rock Church? And then
It's going to be picked up on the other end.
I mean, there's going to be another pipe. We're not going to see water retained there, are we?
you're gonna see water during heavier rain events.
So at this
stop
point
there
now, we don't see
briefly.
that now,
Yeah.
but when you get done, now we're
We're
gonna
gonna
see
see
that. So
it.
now theoretically, we can be flooding those. It don't sound like a fix to me, it just sounds like a Band-Aid.
Well, the current pipe going from the road to the detention basin, there's water sitting in that pipe already. That pipe's 90% blocked. So what we're going to do is we're gonna put a new pipe, deeper, larger, on this downstream end. We're gonna excavate this basin out. This basin was intended to hold water. Probably what happens is water percolates into the ground right now as it comes out the pipe. Probably what happens. Where it goes from there, probably wherever the next low spot is nearby. But there'll be a positive grade line through this basin to carry that water through. Probably because this pipe is flowing free, you may see a little more water.
I just hear a lot of probablys right now.
Well, right now,
Probably, and it's probably bad.
we do not have the second petition, so everything is, nothing is definite.
You're referring to a second petition now. Who all is going to be asked to sign it? Besides us and the petition.
We don't ask
Oh, all right.
to sign petitions, but there's a circulator who's here. I don't know if he wants to identify himself or not.
How many, what's the number?
We need, based on the number, the way the drain code identifies how many signatures are needed is not intuitive. I'll just start by saying that.
Genesee County.
Yes, well, 50% of the free, what the specific language is 50% of the freeholders traversed by the drain have to sign the petition. Okay, so I'm not gonna define freeholder, but basically 50% of the landowners, based on the information that us in Genesee County have done researching deeds, we believe that if the petition is going to be originated by residents, we need 43 signatures at a minimum for that petition to be valid.
87.
So there's like 80 plus landowners traversed by the drain. Okay, complicate that further, anybody who hasn't paid their taxes in the last 3 years, their signature is out. So typically, the advice we give is you get a few more signatures than 83 because somebody didn't pay their taxes. Why should we accept their signature on a petition? Yes?
Pretty much the cause of the excess water flow to these different retention ponds is because of the new taking place in Genesee County. It's changed the way the water flows down into the retention pond versus to the retention pond that was closer to Linden Road, right to the north of that. The bulk of it used to face that way. But when
So
they
you're saying
built
this
up-
might have used to turn to the
that
west?
Yep, that was
Okay.
more the area the water did flow, but from new construction to the north side,
This right
the water
here?
flow did change when it crossed Lobdell Lake Road to where more water. Orchard View.
Well, one of the things that we have not really been able to confirm is that when Lobdell Road was improved some years ago, the ditch was dug from Lobdell Road to the county line. And I suspect if anything changed, it was around that time that ditch was dug from Lobdell Road to the county line, which would have been sometime 2006 and 2008.
That's water flow coming.
But
family.
there's no doubt that, you know, the additional development in Genesee County had an impact on what happened in the Orchard Park condominium. Yes?
That ditch didn't really affect the amount of water we get, because most of the water we get is coming from the north of Lobdell Road through that tile that goes underneath Lobdell Road. And that's where the water really shoots down through there. And what it can't handle, it just runs down the road. A lot of it does. It just goes right down Lobdell Road. And it's all going into that retention pond down there too. But I've been there for 31 years, and I put up with this water for 31 years. So, I mean, it hasn't really gotten any worse, it hasn't gotten any better.
Thank you, Mr. Burrell. There was a gentleman back there.
I was just gonna say, we've lived in Apple Orchard 40 years or so. Area back there before the subdivision was put. Bad every spring. Saw a subdivision that was gonna be building, and he brought in gravel trains and fill back there in the hole. How can a developer get permission to orders buy a piece of property?
I don't know if many of you guys have had a chance to look, but there's a couple of homes there. There's a, what is it, about a 12-foot berm that's been placed in their backyard to keep their basement from flooding. I don't know if they welcome the residents to come out and take a look at it, but it definitely tells a story.
Yeah, I mean, that berm is probably within, I would say, 2 feet of the bottom of his first floor joist. Is how high that
Commissioner
berm
built there
is.
to begin with. You build in a swamp, that's what's gonna happen. So, I mean, how, at the beginning, this is a great place to build? No, it's not. This is what's gonna happen. Somebody had to foresee this and say, oh, yeah, go ahead. Somebody had to foresee, you know, you're building in a swimming pool. This is what's gonna happen. And so now it gets built, and everybody here is gonna get assessed for it.
We could have a whole separate meeting on Michigan land use law, and Mike, I'm sure, would have some unique insights, and we would have some unique insights. Michigan land use law is not well set up to prevent these things from happening, unfortunately. Yes.
Let me kind of help. When they decided to put that subdivision in down there, I came to the meeting.
Right.
And I told the engineer after the meeting, I says, before you build anything down there where you're gonna put that cul-de-sac, you need to come out and watch when the water's running behind my house. I said, I'll give you a call. He gave me his card. I gave him a call. And whether he ever came out or not, I don't know. Because I told him it was in January, this time it was January. And I had a 12-foot wide stream going down. You could hear it from the road out there. You could hear it running from the road.
Believe it, but don't we do?
And I don't think he ever came down there. So, you know, it's the engineer. Whose fault is it? It's the engineer's fault.
Well, let's hold him responsible and give him the bill.
Yeah.
Done.
Send the bill in.
Yeah, he is out of business, and he is the same engineer that
building boats now.
Fox Chase Farms, that is one of the co-defendants, I believe, in the lawsuit that's been stated.
So there's a lawsuit on this right now, Ben?
No.
He's closed it for the time being, pending the results of the proceedings of this drainage petition.
Theoretically, we all should get a lawsuit here, then, or do it again. Somebody
One last question. It's up to the
I'm going to allow 2 more questions, and then we got to move on. You go ahead and yours, and then Gordy has one.
Do you know offhand how many people are in that problem area? Because they would probably be signing the petition, I'm sure.
Yeah, the initial petition was signed by, what, 22, I think? 26 initially. So all the folks in this particular condominium add up to about 26 people.
Even if we don't get the right amount of signatures, something has to be done. We just can't say, oh, well, if you need enough signatures, sorry for your walk.
Well,
so even if we don't get enough signatures, something still has to be done.
I would agree with you, but we can only execute the process that we're, you know, if it doesn't meet the criteria to do it via this mechanism, I can't proceed forward under Chapter 6 of the Drain Code. That's what I can do.
If I can give you a little information real quickly on that.
Yeah.
What happened is I was, we have a homeowners association. We got sued by Mr. Sadler because his home was flooding. He had 3 foot of water in his basement. All said, there's a lot of things, like we can argue about it being wrong and everything, we consulted with, I finally convinced, at the time I was just a homeowner, finally convinced our homeowner association president that we need an attorney to represent us, because he thought he was just gonna walk into court and it was gonna be dismissed. Finally got him to do that, then he had resigned, I got anointed the president. And I had a little bit of real estate dealing, so I knew that this was an issue that needed professional help. We turned around, it was submitted, we went to John Drury, which if anybody has ever heard, like within Livingston County, very knowledgeable man, deals with all these issues all the time. He got we went into court, the court looked at it, and the court said that what they seen was that they seen a need for a special assessment district, and that would be the route instead of litigation they would want us to pursue, or they felt should be pursued. So that's how we started this process. Currently, in order to get to the next step, and this is why I wanted to attend here, in order to do that, we're going to need, the adequate amount of signatures to push this forward. Now, addressing if I don't go around, I'm going to petition, and I would, look for anybody who'd love to volunteer within your own subdivision. If you want to join on to this, I would encourage it, and there's a couple reasons, because if this does not get approved and we cannot push it forward, our subdivision has to act on behalf of all residents within our subdivision. Our only recourse is to go to the legal system. So then what we would end up doing is, now that it's been established where this area is and everybody that's in it, everybody within the side of that district would now become defendants against a lawsuit brought on by our subdivision to remedy this. Now, speaking with Mr. Jury, he says, listen, you've already seen what happened when we've gone to court. The judge already seen that there is a definitive problem here. With the engineering studies, you can show where all the water comes, where the damages are coming from. So now what will end up happening is, if you end up suing, you're going to sue for damages to turn around and, one, they'll probably want you to reestablish the drain district or some remedy to the homeowners that have been affected. And that would subsequently fall on everybody outside of our subdivision. Right. So his take was, he says, listen, I've defended these issues, and he says, you can hire an attorney, just like we at first wanted to defend ourselves and say, listen, this house was built wrong, and there was a lot of things wrong. But he says, listen, you can go into court, you can spend $50,000, $75,000, $100,000 to prove that that man did what was wrong, but the judge will still rule that you have to put a district in there and remedy his problem. So his suggestion is it's a lot cheaper if you go through the drain district, because what it would cost us individually, to pay an assessment, would you rather pay a $2,000 assessment over 10 years, or if you get slapped with it, you can be individually liable, if you don't have a subdivision association. So now that would be assessed to you individually, however the damages come out, and it could, be a substantial amount more, because he could, declare the damages he suffered and everything. So that's why, what I'm going to try to do, and that's why I wanted to attend the meeting, is I wanted to explain to everybody what's happened. And I mean, nobody wants to pay money, and everybody's, we're all pointing fingers, and it's the same thing in our subdivision. Right. But ultimately, there's going to have to be a resolution to this. There's no way that, it can continue. So it's a lot better if we turn around and use our resources and pool it, instead of spending money fighting against each other, to put the money toward the resolution is what we're looking at.
And I think we all understand that. What we don't like is, we heard the road, then all of a sudden we get blindsided with, wait a minute, here's this drain thing coming in that you could be assessed on too. So now we're looking at two assessments we're looking at, and which one do we go with? And most of us here got blindsided with this. Right. And I think if somebody said, well, we got this road coming up, but we also have a drain thing that's right behind it. Which one do we want to pay for?
Right. No, I understand that.
And that's the thing. So, and I think most of it here, we were blindsided by it.
Right. Well, the initial, like we said, the initial petition process to get this started only required 20 signatures, or what I think was 20 signatures to get it started. That was done just to get this moving in the direction we're headed now. And that's where, I know when I spoke with Ken how this process worked, well then, of course, now it's going to have to become public knowledge to everybody who's involved. Right. And, Fox Chase subdivision, I've spoke with them. And, like Ken had mentioned, you can take people and look at it. They're high guys on the hill. Their water comes down and affects everybody downstream. They don't think there's an issue with it, but legally, and initially they were sued as a defendant in the lawsuit. So, that's why I figured I have the opportunity at least to speak to some people within here, and we could sit down if everybody wanted to, at some point, or the next meeting, we could bring more pertinent information and go through it, but, my take is, I know one way or another this will happen, but it's just, what's gonna be the most amicable, amongst everybody. And like I said, don't want anybody to be blindsided, and that was the whole intent when,
Well, the thing about our pockets only so deep. So I'd like to see, this, the road here and this on the other side, and say, hey, you're gonna play for both of them or play for one of them? So, that's not really fair for, because our road is only be done. We got to pay for that.
Right. Well, and I know.
So I don't want to be like, 6 months we're paying for the road and 3 months later, we're paying for drain also.
Right, and I know that's where Mike at the last meeting, he had, we had, it was at the Rock, the last, informational meeting we had. That's where we discussed too, I know he asked like for a timetable, if everything went perfect, when would this, proceed through? Because, we mentioned that with your road going, and same thing, you don't want people coming in and cutting your road. I mean, I wouldn't want it on my road.
But the thing, we don't want to say if it goes perfect. We want to know if it doesn't go perfect, what we're looking at. I mean, nothing ever goes perfect. We want to see that timetable. If this happens, this is where we stand.
Right.
And that's what we need to know.
Yep. Do you have contact information if anybody wanted to talk to you about this
I
further?
could give my phone number, I don't have a problem with that.
Okay,
And I've got, the maps and everything at home, everything from the meetings with Ken.
Sure.
And I'd be more than glad to sit down with anybody or, collectively and do it because, I mean, it's placed a lot of people. We're in the same situation you are. We've got a couple of people that, like I said, you can look at things were done wrong, but, like
we
the
understand it
attorneys.
was done wrong, but, there's only a handful of people who have Apple Orchard here. We want everybody at Apple Orchard to realize this is what's going on.
Right, well, and primarily, you're only, I mean, you're gonna be just the people who are affected by the district, but I think it's probably pretty much encompasses.
It's like 90% of us are going to be
Right.
affected by that.
Right.
So, and like I say, I would like 90% of people to realize, hey, this assessment also is going to happen.
Right.
Oh, I agree wholeheartedly. But like I say, that gives a lot, it's a different on the road now, like, wait a minute here, we're going to be put on this also, so, and if they would have came by with that, when we're getting signatures for the road, I'm sure they would have got it then.
Right.
So, that's something we have to look at.
All right, and if anybody has any other questions about the drain, they can go ahead and contact Ken at the Drain Commissioner's office, and he'll...
Call me, Ken Record, at the Livingston County Drain Commissioner's office.
All right. Okay, so now we're going to move on to our next business item. If those that want to stay, we'd love to have you. And if those that would like to go, because it is getting a little late, feel free to do so. We'll just wait a minute before we move forward with our next agenda item.
How you doing?
How are you?
Good.
Thank you.
More goodies.
Stuff.
I think there's a lot of information shared. Yeah.
That was good. That's why I kind of just let it go, because it's a big deal.
No,
It's a big deal.
important, and I'm glad that so many people came, to be able to get the information.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, don't get this many people in here very often.
Well, right now, you mean with the road? Right now, I have to follow up with our legal counsel because if we, yeah, you were one of the ones that objected. Yes. Yes. So I have a note that I will follow up with you people directly. Thank you.
Hey, Brian. Excuse me, can I have everybody's attention for a second? Those that want to have discussion, could you move out into the hallway so we can continue on with our meeting? I don't want to discourage good conversation, but we've got some business we need to take care of.
Marcy, you can
I am.
it might be the Kingston.
Is it the key?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Not Tyrone Township.
Okay. Thank you.
Well, I sure hope that's the correct flash drive.
I get commercial.
So I'm not sure if there's and I don't know if you want us to start.
Give him just another second, that way everybody can hear and.
We'll go quick enough that people can get to the basketball game.
Okay, now we're going to move to agenda item number 2, which is a presentation from Ann Arbor Spark on economic development, and
I'm going to start. I'm Rick Schofield. I'm the immediate past chair of the Economic Development Council of Livingston County. And I know you guys all know this stuff, but it's reviewed for anybody that doesn't. You know, I noticed that your agenda item says that progress will be reviewed by Ann Arbor Spark. And the way we're structured is that you support, thank you, the EDC, and then we hire Ann Arbor Spark to do our business retention and our business attraction. And they do a phenomenal job. It's really a nice partnership because we have local control spread across the whole county. Dave Walker is representative to our EDC from you. And they have provided a professionalism to our economic development efforts that, we're very, very proud of what they do, and they represent us internationally, nationally, and a whole lot of representation in context of the state of Michigan. So I just think it's a really nice marriage between local control over a really professional organization. They've done a nice job for us also. With those info remarks, I'm going to sit down and let them give you substance.
Good view.
So, good evening. My name is Phil Sainter. I want to recognize a couple of folks on the team here. We have Anna Zinkel, she and I are going to sort of tag team the presentation, and then we have Julia Upfall, who's our business development manager as well. And then maybe Marcy, I can just kind of try and point to you for next slide, if that's okay.
Yeah.
So I don't know if there's a good segue between the conversation that we just had and ours, except that we have a whole bunch of water on our first slide. So maybe next slide we can kind of get into the agenda. So
there's no houses around your water. That's the difference.
I think the agenda here that we want to start with was go through a little bit of data, which I realize is really exciting to some people and really boring to other people. So I'll try and do that as really quickly as we can. Want to talk about sort of the role that we have in our partnership with the EDC and also with Tyrone Township. And then we want to do a little bit of a sort of a look ahead as well. So I'll try and, I think we're going to try and be really brief given the time factor here. So we wanted to give a little bit of an overview. One of the things that we pay attention to is sort of data in general, about data and the activity and the work that we're doing, and also about the communities that we serve. So we pulled a little bit of data just as an FYI for things happening here in Tyrone Township. So kind of some of the high points of information that we have. So this is educational attainment for Tyrone Township. Next slide. So we'll go through here. Labor force, and you can see there's about 5,500 workers in Tyrone Township. You can sort of see where people are placed into various occupations, and about 22% is in the production side, and then the top 5, I guess, are represented there. What are the businesses and jobs perspective in Tyrone Township? You can see it's manufacturing, construction, I guess arts and sports, and sort of other. I think if you map this compared to Livingston County overall, probably the big 3 stools that we talk about in Livingston County are manufacturing, healthcare, and retail or hospitality. So a little bit different than what's compared to Livingston County as a whole. I think this is probably a point of pride here in terms of sort of the median income in Tyrone Township. You can kind of see where it's placed relative to Livingston County, which if you haven't heard, Livingston County is kind of fights with Oakland County, but to be the wealthiest community or wealthiest county in Michigan. So Tyrone Township 7% more than the county, 51% higher than the city. So I guess a point of pride. And then some broader level data. So as we sort of move up towards the overall county level, these are some things that we pay attention to, and this is something that we commonly refer to. We have a quarterly report that we provide to the board and to our township partners, and this is one of the key elements for us. Unemployment rate in our business is sort of a good and bad metric. So as you can see, it's been trending down over time, which I think in general people think is a good thing. But in our business, when we're trying to bring businesses in that are looking for new employees, oftentimes it's something where they see a little bit of concern when they're talking about a low unemployment rate. So on the one hand, it's a good thing because people are raising their hand and saying, I want to work, and they're able to find a job. On the other hand, it's when businesses are saying, I've got to bring in 100 employees, where am I going to be able to find those? They kind of question that a little bit. So it's one of those metrics that's important for a few different reasons for us. This is something that we've tracked, and I think we're probably the only traditional economic development group in the state of Michigan that follows this, and that's because it's so important in Livingston County, which is housing sales. So we've tracked this over time. You can kind of see the cycles associated with that and where things are. I think it's a great indicator and a great economic indicator for Livingston County of how well things are going on here based on the amount of sales because it's such a bedroom and such a residential community. So another piece of information that we have is what's going on from a labor force standpoint in terms of how many people live in the township or live in the community, and how many people are coming into work, and how many people are heading out. So as you can see here, this is the sort of inflows and outflows on a daily basis from Tyrone Township. Again, it speaks and sort of underscores the point as a bedroom community. People are living here, raising their families, having their kids go to school, and then they tend to go work somewhere else, and you can kind of see there's a pipeline down, sometimes to Ann Arbor, sometimes to Oakland County, sometimes up north of Flint, etc. So where does our talent come from? And this is a zip code analysis that we did. We asked sort of 3 of the largest manufacturers in Livingston County to give us their zip code data and say, where are you finding your talent that you're coming from? And this is a heat map of that. So you can see a lot of folks are coming in from Livingston County and sort of the areas that they work in, but it's a big catchment. This is something that we bring to the national and international attention because not many communities in the U.S. have this kind of labor shed, basically, where you have people that are coming in from Flint or they're willing to drive a long period of time. If you go in, California, if you tried to drive from the distance between Flint and Livingston County, you wouldn't be able to do it in a day. So it's something, kind of a point of pride for us in terms of how much people are willing to drive for their work. Another piece that we follow and we think is really important is to know what jobs are available. And so we follow the top employers with job openings and the top industries. And we do this on a quarterly basis on our quarterly reports, and then we also pulled it up here for an over the full year piece. I think what I'll point out here is you can kind of see the importance that healthcare, I think, is playing in Livingston County overall. There's obviously been a lot of growth in that over the past couple of years, and I think that's you're seeing that in the data in terms of who's hiring right now as well. So I think I got a couple of pieces here, and then I'm probably going to hand it over to Anna. So I think we subscribe by the point of what gets measured gets done. And so the metrics are really important to us in terms of what we're providing to our board. Obviously, Rick is our immediate past chair, and then Dave Walker, who I know is absent, but also sits on our board. So you can see some of our results that we've tracked over our time in the community. Another piece that's up here is the amount of people that are employed by the companies that we're working with. So when we go in as part of our retention call program, we're going in and checking in with the businesses, seeing where they're at in their development cycle, trying to identify what their challenges are, and then working with them hopefully to overcome some of those issues. And we'll talk about a couple examples of what those things have been over the past year or so. But it's trying to employ about 15,000 people. And then another piece that we think is important, especially for our folks at the board level, is what the average community around Michigan is paying for their economic development services, and what we try and do with our work in Livingston County. So we try and be very fiscally responsible and try and leverage the funding that we do have from the EDC in order to do our work effectively. So with that, I think I'm going to turn it over to Anna, and I might, because I have a hard time shutting up, so I might type in at some point. Sorry.
It's fine. So this is, as Phil said, he pointed out the $260 million worth of investment that we've worked on over this year, and these are a couple of the companies that we have worked with in specific. I like this slide a lot because some of these companies are homegrown companies that were founded right here in Livingston County. C&B Machinery was actually founded over in Oakland County, and Joe Parker, who probably many of you know, he's sort of a regular fixture in Livingston, decided to bring his manufacturing operation here to Tyrone Township, which was a point of pride for Livingston. It's just an excellent place to do business. And another interesting piece about this slide, Grupo Antolin, many of you might know them as Magnum Interiors. They were purchased by Grupo Antolin, which is a Spanish company, which again points to the point that Phil made earlier. There's a large showing of international investment here in Livingston. Chemtrend is, of course, another excellent example of that. They were founded in downtown Howell and continue to have a presence in downtown Howell. And then they're actually held by one of the largest publicly traded companies in Germany called Freudenberg. And so there's sort of a nice showing. And then, Armor Protected Packaging, they're over in Tyrone Township. They're a family-owned business. They're small but continuing to grow and invest here in the region. And so you can see that Livingston can service all sorts of different businesses, both privately and publicly held, and national and local.
Can I jump in one point on that? I couldn't even get past one slide. I think just in speaking here in Tyrone Township, right, and I think the international investment component that we've seen in the automotive sector is really, it's pretty clear. And I think you even see it from TRW and the change in TRW's name, from going from TRW to ZF TRW. So it was an acquisition that was part of this sort of overall international component of what's going on, and I think speaks to the trend of what we're seeing in the automotive industry in general. Although I'll note just this week, Grupo Antolin was picked up by Lear, so we're going to have to take that off the international investment list.
Which is good, it's coming back to an American-owned company. And then to piggyback on this Grupo, on the ZFTRW piece, we meet with them multiple times a year because ZF is the largest employer in Livingston County. And if any of you are following them in cranes, they're investing significantly in the state of Michigan overall and hiring many, many new engineers. TRW is one of the premier manufacturers in the state of Michigan, and then ZF has a really excellent research and development component. And they're also one of the top investors in M-City, which is the autonomous vehicle testing center over at ZF. And so it's really excellent to have them right here and continuing.
And for those you don't know, ZF is the Zeppelin Foundation. It's the people that make the Zeppelins, the blimps.
Yeah, which is a nice piece of journalism. We can go on to the next slide. And so in addition to meeting with individual companies, and sort of, the way that we tie that all together is looking for ways that we can create sustainable programs in the county that help multiple companies. And so at the end of 2015, we did a countywide survey of employers to see what some of the largest needs were, and unsurprisingly, talent came up. A lot of companies in Livingston County, as you saw from the earlier map, are employing people who might work outside of Livingston. And so in order to make that sustainable for the employers so that they continue to grow and succeed here, we partnered with Community Ventures to help offset the cost of bringing some of those people who are new to the workforce, and they might have been out of work for a number of years and usually the reason is they don't have transportation. So Community Ventures is a nice use of state taxes in order to help subsidize the cost of employers who bring people here. So far, Tri-Bar, Thai Summit, and Key Plastics are utilizing the system. There's a number of other companies not highlighted on there because they're just in the process of enrolling in Community Ventures, but companies are finding that so far. So that's one example of a talent service we're offering. Many of you may be familiar with Michigan Works, which is another state and federally funded entity here in the state of Michigan. Michigan Works helps to get people to help people find gainful employment in the area. And so we've partnered closely with them because we're working with a lot of the same companies, and we're helping to do some more sustainable programs. You'll see some more work with between Spark and the EDC and Michigan Works in the way of working with local schools, because it's excellent to be able to bring people in, but we also want to have homegrown talent. And so we're working closely with the local school districts to make sure that students are aware of the opportunities here. There's a lot of excellent research and development jobs and manufacturing jobs here in Livingston County, and we want to make sure that students are aware of those and are getting plugged in. So this year, National Manufacturing Day, which comes up of a push around. The next one. So this gives you an overview of what Spark does and how we can help companies in your communities. So we kind of do a lot of different things. Phil always likes to say we're economic development generalists, meaning that we know a little bit about a lot of things and a lot about a couple of things, I guess. And so these are a few examples of services that we provide to companies here. And I guess to highlight one that's not necessarily on here is actually a program that Rick and Scott Griffiths started with the EDC, which is the micro. So Rick identified a need for entrepreneurs in Livingston County to have funding and sort of a support system around that. And there are some other entities that do that. The Small Business Development Center, SCORE, and then Spark has some services around that. But we didn't really have a fund that was designated for entrepreneurs. And the Economic Development Council, in partnership with First National Bank, started the EDCLC Microloan Fund. It's a very flexible loan that's meant to fill a gap that came about after 2008. Became a little bit more strict. So this is a loan that's up to $50,000 a year at a 5% fixed interest rate. I know that earlier there was a woman who said she worked from home. I'm not sure if she's an entrepreneur, if she, what her situation is, but there are a lot of people that have home businesses here, and it might be helpful for them to look at that. Sure.
Okay. Well, I was just gonna, the point there, and I think kind of piggybacking off the last slide too, I think the partnership that we've tried to have with a lot of our municipal partners, and I hope it extends to Tyrone Township, is to really consider us as, I hope, as part of an extension of the township staff in a lot of ways in terms of either interfacing on things, being able to ask questions, providing some of those technical assistance, setting up discussions or conversations. So I think when we're looking at sort of the development opportunities for Tyrone Township, and we've had this conversation before in terms of, are you going to see development that is going to be moving up from, say, the Heartland Township corridor coming north, or is it going to be from things that are going on in Fenton coming south? And I think that's where I personally see the opportunities from a Tyrone Township perspective, and I want to make sure that you view us as an extension of people that you can call on as questions come up and services might need to be addressed.
Well, so for this slide specifically, there's a couple of developments that are potentially going through the planning process soon in the community. I'm sure that folks have seen signs about the White Lake Road development, and these are still in the site planning process.
Right.
And so nothing has been approved, but we just want to make sure we're there to help provide any sort of data that can be helpful to these folks as they're looking ahead. And your government is working with you to make sure that it's the projects that fits the needs of the community. So we're able to help with real estate in that way. We have a couple of databases that will put these sorts of sites to make sure that they're on the area for folks. Right.
I'll take this one too. So this is just the overall sort of looking ahead in terms of what are some trends that we're looking at from this year and beyond, really. And I think a lot of these points have already been made. So Anna mentioned sort of keeping local talent local, and there's something called the My Bright Future program, which is an interesting way to try and have some career awareness for our school kids to be able to say, what are the opportunities in our own backyard that we can try and plug into. Talked about the healthcare and sort of the growth in that, and is that something that we should try and pay greater attention to as a community and as a county. I mentioned the microloan program and land use planning overall. I think obviously there's a need, and even some of the other conversation of trying to make sure that planning and development is done the right way. So making sure that there's a set of best practices associated with that is something that we're key on for both doing and encouraging development in the right way and making sure that it's not going to cause problems 20 years down. I think this here is just a list of our contact information. So you not only have sort of the Spark team, we have our partners with the Michigan Economic Development Corporation, and our utility partners are also really important for us and from a development perspective. And I think that's all.
Do you happen to know the median individual income? I know that we have, single family houses where you have a single mother or a single father or a widow or, is that statistic available? And if so, could you get it for us?
I'm sure it's available, and yes, we can get it for you.
It's more of the demographics, as you have your seniors and the,
Yeah,
the age, the demographics of the groups that you have, the categories.
It could be part of our value proposition as far as a marketing piece.
Yeah, so what we've actually pulled from a lot of the data that you saw at the start was we have a tool that we use through through a vendor, and they provide all the sort of data in a nice, infographic style way that includes a lot of the demographic information. We didn't choose to include it in
And
there, but-
how current is that data? Obviously, we know that some data comes from census, and, our census is 7 years old now.
Yeah, they try and sort of, we often ask them the same question, and we often have to ask them to update certain things and make sure that it's up to date as possible. So they do their best choice in terms of saying, okay, it's American Community Survey and it's from 2015 or whatever, and sometimes they have to go back to older data. So it's the best that we've been able to find, but in terms of specific individual medium, we'll get that for you.
Perfect. Appreciate it.
I have a quick question. I get the little notifications about, like you were saying, a job fair or different like companies in the area are doing a career, like a job career fair thing. And I don't know if we've put them on our website, Terry, but I think we've done some like the email blast where we try to get it out to our residents, because it is great to let our students know that there's these job fairs happening in local places. But I was curious if there's a way, like on our website, is there something we can link to this information to try to, if someone came to our website, they may be like, hey, what's this, and click it. And
We have a couple of different resources available. Michigan Works as a job site. and
Okay.
So that's targeted toward the individual job seeker. And
Okay.
So they can look for what they want. We have a very similar job site which covers both Washtenaw and Livingston County, so it won't be
Right.
only Livingston County.
Right.
website.
Okay.
So that's available. The Livingston Regional Job Fair takes place every year, so we'll make sure we send the information to you guys.
yeah, I think that's the one that we've always sent out through the email blast to let our residents know. So.
Yeah, I think that our job portal and My Talent Connect would be the two links that we
Okay.
can send you that I would encourage, because I think that's a phenomenal way to try and connect
All right.
the residents that might be looking for opportunities, because that's the biggest need that we hear from companies right now. Is
Right,
trying
they
to find the
need-
people that are going to be able to
Okay.
do a good job. We know we have them in the community. It's just sometimes
Okay.
awareness.
I got
Great.
one quick one, if
Okay.
I could. Do you guys put any effort towards attracting these businesses to Tyrone Township? Because we have the space and opportunity, and we need some commercial growth.
Yeah, I think so for our efforts on that, a couple things that we do. So one is that we're responsible for responding to, oftentimes there'll be a need that comes out either through the state of Michigan or through our partners with the Detroit Regional Chamber or relationships that we've set up from an attraction component. And they'll say, here's a need that we have. Usually comes from a real estate component to say, I need, the traditional over the past few years is I need 100,000 square feet of space that has a 25-foot ceiling, and it's really not a building that exists much anymore. But we're responsible for responding on behalf of our community partners to be able to say, hey, by the way, here's an opportunity, and we include a marketing package on top of that to say, here's all the great things and great amenities that are going on in the community. We've done that in the past for Tyrone Township, especially when there's been a land need that's come through. So sometimes we'll have, frankly, sometimes we get absurd requests, but there'll be things for a very large parcel of land, for example, and I think Livingston County is well positioned to be able to say, yeah, we might be able to assemble some land that could try and take advantage of that. I think sometimes the challenges that we get are the people that are raising their hand for those needs often have a expectation from a utilities perspective, and so they'll want to say, oh, it's great that I need 1,000 acres and I need it to have sewer and water and high electrical, et cetera. And oftentimes those are challenging requirements to fill, but it's our responsibility to put the best foot forward and make sure that those are included.
And are we assessed, in your opinion, of where we have commercial areas in the township, good for you guys to help plug in for these people looking for it? I mean, is there something else that we should know that to prep these properties for that?
I mean, I think like there's probably some general advice that could happen, but ultimately, I think I'm always keen on making sure that each opportunity is going to be individualized. Here's what the need is in terms of what a potential development opportunity could be, and they're going to have some specific requirements that could be associated with that. One of the ways that we're trying to at least provide a little bit of that feedback is annually we've been putting together a list of projects that have not have been on our radar but have not landed in Livingston County or in the region, and trying to identify what are the reasons why they haven't landed. And so that's one of the pieces that come up has been a utility component. Sometimes they end up finding what they're looking for in another community. Sometimes it's because we haven't been able to identify the right incentive package to be able to put together. But every project is really unique, and they're all have their own sets of personalities and issues.
Go ahead, Scott.
Okay, Scott Dietrich, White Lake Road. I'm probably the only one that was here when Mr. Dillingham came here the first time and promised the world. Mind you, it was a recession. And we also told them, well, we have many commercial buildings sitting in Livingston County that were not unoccupied at the time. So I was very doubtful that we were going to get much development in this area. And that's one of the reasons why the 23 corridor got developed. You guys weren't here. All right, Jerry was. Anyways, Kelsey Hayes was here before then. In your manpower, you got very few people down there that live in this. I could probably count them on 2 hands. Developer, you could, anybody you want to work in here from outside. It just depends on how much you're going to pay. But my issue is, you say, Winnebago came in here, his butt was on fire. He wanted to develop that, and he wanted it done yesterday. That was Terry. And it wasn't all set up through here to do that. We had the sewers, but we didn't have the 23 corridor developed. We had to go through the master plan over. Now, I think a bigger problem we have is our 23 exit entrance problem, because I think Fawcett Road, who's going to develop down through here? We can't get off Fawcett Road. White Lake Road Bridge would probably have to be redone, like Bowen Road, where you got 4 lanes, because if you got developed there, you got a lot of traffic. So the township board here needs to probably get on the board, if you got a developer for this, they need to get on the horn of the state and start getting those bridges. And I don't know if you talked to your developers on it, but I think that's going to be a big issue. But other than that, it sounds good. I mean, I know you guys had your, it was bad. The economy was bad. I wasn't for it at the time, but now I think the time is right. I mean, if you guys can get development in this area. But I like development, believe me wrong. I'm not against it. I'm tired of all the McDonald's on the corner. I mean, they just recently, I didn't make the last meeting. My sister works at Kelsey Hayes, TRW. So I can't come up here, and I don't want to raise too much hell. Okay, because I don't want to keep in here for a long time.
They don't work for TRW.
No, but I could give a business a 0 tax. As a resident and a taxpayer, I can do that. But I want a good paying job. I want the best. I'll invest down there. I was like, okay, you don't pay taxes. But don't be, you brought up the hiring place. Michigan Works in the place up in Flint where you go and hire through the job services. I want better paying jobs. I mean, I'll pay the extra tax here, and hopefully we'll get some more people in the community. I don't mind that. I know you brought it up on the board about tax abatements. It works for me. It brings jobs. But I want good pay. I don't want McDonald's jobs. But, that's political. I don't want to go too much further than that. But like I said, that's why I brought to the board is infrastructure. We got the sewers. I think the bridge works. Can you give us some feedback on what they're looking for and if they brought that up?
So I think in the transportation piece, and it came up probably in the earlier conversation in terms of grant opportunities, the common piece that we most commonly work with, and we have partnered with MDOT to try and do other transportation deals. And most commonly we've done it, I guess most recently with TG Fluids and Everspacer or both. The challenge that we have in our world is from the economic development side, it's often tied to specific industries, and it's often tied to most traditionally manufacturing. So if we could tie in some investments from, say, the needs from ZFTRW expanding, that's something that qualifies from a grant perspective. The challenge that we often have in Livingston County is that there's been so much commercial growth that doesn't qualify from the grant component. So as an example, we're having this, I won't call it a fight because it's not a fight yet, but we're gently encouraging MDOT to consider some funding opportunities for things like bridge opportunities down in Green Oak relative to the Legacy Center, because there's kind of a tourism component of what we're trying to position it as, which is a qualified component. So one of the challenges that we try and have is we try and say, here's all the things that are going on and all the growth that's happening in Livingston County, and try and fit it into the rules and the boxes that they have to check in order to fit whatever their legislative or funding requirements are. So it's something that we get frustrated at as well, because we see the opportunity here and we want to be able to take advantage of those things, and sometimes we're handcuffed by the legislative process.
Well, my question is, what I don't know if they brought it up, they talk privately as a citizen. What do we need to do to get the development along here? I mean, is it the bridges? Is it anything? I mean, we've got a fire department down here. I mean, I think we got it pretty well set up. I mean, it's a nice area.
I mean, I would think sometimes we just have to figure out where is the capital going to be risk averse? And one of the things that we've gotten feedback from some of our development friends that are coming in from outside of the area is Michigan in general. We feel like we're post-industrial, gun-shy capital, and they said in other markets where you had such a low vacancy rate in terms of your industrial commercial space, you'd see spec buildings coming up. Right. And we don't do that, and they sort of position it that we've kind of lost some bets in the past in Michigan overall. And so sometimes you just have to make sure that the people that are going to deploy the capital and take the risk feel comfortable enough to do that. So a lot of times it comes down to demographic components and where the customer bases are going to be. So it's a broader kind of question, and if there was a silver bullet, I wish I'd tell you and say,
I just like to know if you guys got any do you get feedback? Are you asking it? I'd like to have you guys ask the right questions.
I think that's, I would say if we do more from a utilities perspective, do more from a transportation perspective, and everyone say, yeah, bring me some customers closer. Those things, we can do some of those.
A lot of folks are looking for something that's already developed, it's got the water, the sewer in the building, and nobody wants to fund spec anything. So if you can't get funding for spec stuff, then you aren't ready when someone says, this is what we want, and it's one of those circles.
Well, in part two, the other piece of that is it's a lot harder to fund ground-up projects as it was 15, 20 years ago. The banks are holding on to money a lot tighter than they were.
That funding's just not there.
Yeah, so you're just
Although
not, you're
they
just.
say that they are, they're loosening it up, but we'll see.
Yeah.
That's what they say.
The rumor on the street is that's going to happen. So. All right, does anybody else have any other questions for Anna versus Bart?
I'm good.
Thank you guys for coming out.
Very nice presentation. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
You want some? Thank you.
Okay, now we're going to move on to item number 3, which is the request of Anthony Hansen to appeal his fire run service. And Anthony's here. So just a review, we have a fire run that occurred. He did have a burn permit, but what happened is he was burning past the date allowed for open burning. So if you would like to address the township board as to your case and your facts on this, we're all ears.
Okay. I guess I'll start with I had a permit. I guess I didn't realize that burning that specific thing, because obviously the burn permit's good all year. I guess I didn't realize that you couldn't burn leaves past the 15th of November, which honestly is an honest mistake that anyone could have made. And it was only 2 weeks past. And I guess to clear something up that was wrong in the fire report is it's noted in there that there were multiple piles of leaves with gasoline near them. You got noted that there were 2 cans of gasoline and there was 0. I had a gardening hose and a 5-gallon pail filled with water. And yeah, and just I guess the whole fact that for basically a fireman to come out there, be there for less than 5 minutes, not even leave the truck, just tell me hey, this needs to be put out. I put it out on my own. I had the permit. I understand that it was 2 weeks out of date or out of date for that item, but I put it out as soon as I was asked. I put it out on my own. It was not imposing any kind of harm or traffic delay to anybody. It was small and contained. Being a single guy, living on my own, owning my first house, I'm a full-time student and I work part-time. $1,400 honestly is outrageous and isn't affordable for someone in my situation.
Okay.
Was that all? Okay. Does anybody have any questions for Mr. Hanson?
No.
No questions?
A question about why do they have those dates?
I think those are probably the, some of the compromises they tried to make. So you can't make everybody happy.
Why not?
Some people don't like burning leaves at all.
We tried to.
And so I think the idea of the ordinance was to
Wasn't here
allow
when the
time
ordinance was
frames.
written, but my best guess would be that the times frames were put in place for people to get their leaves gathered up and get them burnt. So people can open their windows and breathe. And we have people that have respiratory problems, some people have asthma, you know, OCD or OCP or whatever. Correct me if I'm wrong.
OCD, COP.
COP, that it.
OCD.
Breathing disorders. I think I got some other disorder here. It's been a long day. But anyway, I think that's what the reason is, to get it done, and so, because the smoke does bother a lot of people.
Would that be more for a subdivision?
That's what I was wondering.
don't
Do
know,
you,
but
do you have
it seems to
neighbors
me
real
that fire
close
hazard would be
by,
less during the
or
winter.
right directly across the street from you? Or how close are your
People next
neighbors?
door, like, it's not.
You're not in a
like
sub.
subdivision.
You're not
It's
in a
like
sub,
on
okay.
You're on the main, you're on the
You're
You're on Benton Hill, right?
Okay.
It's on a main road.
I think they're 1 acre parcels minimum.
Oh, okay.
1 or 2.
Well,
How
what
long?
Soren is saying, is that what that is intended on for the burn? Because honestly, if you can go out and have, if a burn, you've got a bonfire, I understand the ordinance is what the ordinance is. The intention would probably be is if you have a bonfire, I mean, you can have a bonfire within reason during that same time period.
Right.
And if it's a subdivision with house after house after house, having leaves burning and smoldering, because the leaves burning is really smoldering, and could be considered to be a nuisance to people. My question is, like what Soren is saying, is that intended for subdivision type
No,
burning? Or
It's
is
for,
that?
it's the entire,
It's
it applies to
a
everybody.
general ordinance, it's a regulatory ordinance. so it
That's
applies
how
to
I would read it, but the intent, remember, everything's got an intention in there too.
Mm-hmm.
So is this created with the intention? Without, you know, is this how, I mean, is this something we have to look at?
Yep.
Or
Well, it's to the board because
not
it's,
just this gentleman's situation?
it's brought to the board because of the way the ordinance is written and the circumstances. So it's up for the it's up for this board to make a decision on how they want to proceed based on the facts and the circumstances. We understand what the ordinance says, so.
Usually when we issue a burn permit, we provide rules and regulations. And it's, you know, up to the person, the responsible owner, to read the rules and regulations.
Expensive.
Yeah, an expensive lesson. So you say, now you're a newer resident. How long have you been a resident of Tyrone Township?
Would be 2 years that I bought the house, but
Okay.
I didn't move in until a couple months after that, so
Okay.
probably a year and a half.
So a year and a half
Is this
resident.
the first time you bought a burn permit?
I believe so.
All right, okay. So it's
First timer.
First timer.
So is it, now, let me get this straight. I'm gonna raise my hand. Was the burn permit expired or is she?
No, he had a
He had a
current.
valid burn permit.
Well, it's just that you got, I didn't notice this because I got a burn permit. So November 15th is the cutoff date for
There,
these?
it's right in the rules and regulations that are
I just
attached.
assume, I have my hose down there. I just assume, see, I'm the same way. I just assume you could burn up to the first.
The thing is though, with the leaves, it is something because as they burn, they are smoldering.
Smoldering wood
And
is
so
the
what,
same way though.
right, but if you're gonna have a fire, proper fire is actually a fire, right?
I
So,
can see the technicality of it. We're in a rural area. I mean, I see if you're in a subdivision. I mean, it is what it is when it's written up. I didn't catch it.
We understand that.
I have
Let's
some-
get back to the.
You have- I
You
think he
raised
wants
your
to
hand,
share.
go ahead.
Yep, go ahead and share.
I guess it almost carries off of what he's saying. Like, he's lived here for however long, 30 years. So, and he's probably had a burn permit multiple times, and he's just now realizing that 15th of November cutoff. Without looking at the ordinance, or like reading it right then and there, how many of you knew that right in your head? Like, it's probably not something that, without going and reading that every time you're gonna go start a fire or clean up some debris in your yard, that you're gonna always click in your head. You know what I mean?
I know I have trees in the yard that don't even drop the leaves yet by that time, so maybe it's something that needs to be looked at.
Especially with how our fall was this year, half of my leaves probably weren't even down by November 15th.
Oh, it does come back to the fact that
well, we got two
there's,
problems.
every time they're called, the township's already been billed for this 1391, and we've already had to pay the bill. Whenever the fire truck leaves the fire station, we get billed. Now, they could have come out, and if you had been within the time frame, they would have said, great, you're within your burn permit, great day, be safe and careful. Even though they came out and they couldn't have fined you if you were in the rules, the township still has to pay. We still are gonna get an invoice because that fire truck left the station because we contract our services. So, I mean, it always comes down to the money. We've already had to pay this bill. There was a report indicating a violation to an existing ordinance that applies to everyone in the township. So.
Well, there's.
Yeah, you wanted to say one more thing, go ahead.
Here's one question. I asked both times that I came in here, what exactly is the $1,400 to get allocated to? Because there's no way, like, I'm a
I can explain.
mathematics and finance student, there's no way that this $1,400 is what was spent on the fire run, because the fire department in Fenton is less than a 15-minute drive from my house. The timestamps in there prove that they got from the station to my house in 13 minutes. You double that and then double it again for there being two guys, you're looking at less than an hour's worth of labor. So there's no way that the cost of the truck to drive them out there, any gas they used, and their hourly wages come anywhere near $1,400.
Well, it's the cost to purchase the equipment, the cost to use the equipment, the cost to maintain the equipment, the cost of training, the cost of insurance.
You're still not getting $1,400.
But
We don't own we don't have our own
The
department.
building, I mean, there's a lot that goes into it. But the way our contract is for fire services is when the fire truck leaves the building and it hits the street, they bill us for that fire run. Even if it's canceled, that's what we pay. If it doesn't hit the street, then we only pay, I don't know
It's
what
a
the exact number is.
prorated.
It's a very short, little amount, $250, I think. Regardless of what the incident is, that's what they charge us. If TRW had an explosion, they shut down the freeway, they melted the asphalt, buildings fell in, they were out there for 5 days doing cleanup, $1,400.
It's just the way the contract
It would
is.
just, that's how, well, that's how the contract is written for run. It's, you know, I just don't know that they have the way to sit there and itemize all that and continue to provide quality service. You know, fire departments aren't big city departments. They're, you know, a lot of them are volunteer. There's 1 or 2 full-time employees, and, you know, that's a whole different level of government service that they would have to, and there'd be more cost associated with it. So that's just how our contract is. We don't have a fire department, so we kind of have to, you know, deal with what they say, and we either take it or spend millions and millions of dollars creating our own fire department. So comes down, I mean, we have a person that's a new resident. He's got a first-time burn permit. He's got a situation, and how do we want to proceed with this? I know you had another comment that you wanted to make.
Well, the comment that I had was probably one of the tougher things to sit here and observe. The fact that we got the 2 problems is we got possible interpretation of a ordinance of what it's intended for, which has nothing to do with this particular incident. It's just something we might want to look into later. And B, we have the fact that ignorance is not, and don't take that the wrong way, usually it doesn't get you out of jail, kind of thing. You know, I mean, it's usually if you took the responsibility of getting the credentials to have the fires, I mean, even if you have a burn permit, there's times when the winds are at a certain level, you have to know better, or A, when in doubt, check the ordinance, or B, say there happened to be a burn ban issued by, you know, the fire departments because we have 3 fire departments that service our township. You know, just because, you know, maybe Fenton doesn't have a burn ban on, but Deerfield has a burn ban and Heartland doesn't, well, guess what? We have a burn ban. We can't burn. So even if, you know, you just checked one and it was okay, you know, you still have a responsibility to check on that as a permit holder of that. And I feel the hardship of that. I mean, I feel your pain on that. I feel bad for you, but the point is that those things are there to set in, and if we do this, we set a precedence on, I mean, it was just it's a clear line. And the hardest thing to do is go back on that, because then we're gonna have the door beat down by everybody else that, hey, you gave
I
here.
think we have done a circumstantial thing in the past where we've reduced the amount.
And that,
I'd suggest that we consider the possibility of splitting the cost with the fellow here because of the circumstances, and further look into modifying this ordinance to change it.
Always do that. I mean,
I think we need to relook at that as far as like the dates of November 15th on that.
we can address that at another time, and we can always make that a agenda item. But what would you like to do?
Make the motion that we split the cost with this young fellow and proceed elsewise with changing the ordinance.
I'd support that.
Okay, it's been motioned and supported to split the cost of the fire run. Any further discussion? Roll call vote? No, I think we just.
It's not a resolution, it's just a motion.
Yeah, it's not a resolution, but go ahead and then we're done. All in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Those opposed?
Nay.
Nay.
And 3. Was that a 3 and a 3? Oh, jeez.
Got a coin?
Now what do you do, Mr. Supervisor?
Well, we still talk about it. So I mean, we go back to the table. You know, this one is challenging for me. I mean, I'm kind of having a hard time of charging the guy because, you know, we got here because I followed the rules. That's why we're discussing this. I don't feel it's my, when the stars align for me to not have this as a board discussion. Understands first-time owner, understands first-time burn permit, understands cost. I've been there, believe me. In fact, we were just having a little discussion about that today on how I faced a fine that was really difficult for me to swallow. So, I guess I kind of voted no on this one because I'm having a hard time with the charge. But,
My worry is that,
setting a precedence,
Yes.
and I get that too. And that is, that is a fair assessment.
and by all means, I sympathize with your student and everything in there, but again, sometimes these are tough lessons, but at the same time, we can do what we can do from this point forward to do what we can. That's probably more right as far as the ordinance is concerned, to try to adjust things, but,
Two, if we're going to revisit the ordinance and possibly remove that or extend that date.
Change the
then we
amount, you know what I mean? I don't
Then we
know
wouldn't-
what's going to come of that,
wouldn't- Right.
but,
It could take a while.
and it could take a while. So I see it, but the board really needs to work through this one right now.
I didn't know if you were all letting it back up. I didn't know if we could add anything as a public.
Yeah.
Can I ask a question?
Sure.
I guess like if it's on discussion to potentially change the dates or get rid of the dates, I understand that that was a rule put in place now, but wouldn't it, like if you're gonna,
You want to be grandfathered in?
well, no, it's almost like you're gonna hold me to this while you already have the thought in your head of changing it, that you're gonna punish me at this instance, but you're already thinking about changing it to something different at the same time. So it's almost like on one side of the table, you got one idea going, but then you're running with another one over here.
I may, the reason they're having problems is we're a fiduciary situation. We have to look out for the people's money, or the township's money, and if we go giving it away, so to speak, to everybody that comes along, then we're not being responsible.
And with all, with all that being said, there's, you as a permit holder have a responsibility to know what that ordinance says too. Even if, unfortunately, even if we, make the same mistake, unfortunately, really, it's in black and white. And, same thing, a cop can give you a ticket for going 10 miles an hour over the speed limit because the speed limit changed, because you looked over to the second, you missed the speed limit change sign, and you just keep tacking along at that same speed, the cop's gonna nip you a mile down the road. You didn't intend to do it, you didn't intend to break the ordinance, you didn't intend to break the law, but the thing is, it was put in black and white, and unfortunately, you missed it. And that's where we're having trouble with this. It isn't because we don't want to reduce this or just not make you pay this fine. The problem is the door will be beaten down if we don't follow the ordinance that's been voted on and put in place.
But if you're at the same time discussing changing the ordinance, then you're not gonna run into that issue.
Well,
Do you understand what I mean?
we're going to open discussion for it. And we're going to look at it. Doesn't mean that we're going to change it.
Yeah.
Doesn't mean that we're going to waive the fee for this situation. Could change it. Don't know.
I think your situation has made the board realize,
That
why do we have such specific dates? Do we need to revisit?
Is there a reason for it?
Is there, what is the reason for it? Do we need to revisit it?
And that
Do we need
probably
to
would
extend the
include
dates? Do we need to take the
discussion with
dates
the fire
out?
department as well, too.
Yeah,
so.
and that's gonna be a very long process, and that has to go through a board approval process.
Another thing,
So
though.
that could be next year by the time they have any decision made on it.
It's just like we were discussing here about the policeman. The policeman may decide to let him off. We're in a situation where we don't allow for that.
We're at a divide. Yeah. I'm more of to decline waiving the fee, but we would allow for a payment plan. I understand you're limited on funds. We allow people to make payment plans on these fire runs. So, he could set up a payment plan on it, get it paid off.
So I guess the question I have, is there anybody here that wants to waive the total fee?
Total fee.
That conversation is off the table. I think I would change my stance to
We're gonna go pay
Zoran's motion if we bring another motion to that.
Split the cost?
Yeah.
Okay. So move that we split the cost.
Okay. So do we have a second?
I'll
600 and
It's been motioned and supported to split the cost of the fire run in question. Any further discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Those opposed?
Nay. I'm the
The ayes
bad
have
guy. I'm the bad guy.
it. So I'll send you a follow-up letter. There is an option for a payment plan if that'll work for you. And you can call Marion and discuss that. All right. Thank you for being patient. Okay, next on the agenda is request of the Deputy Treasurer to attend the Michigan Municipal Treasurers Association Institute.
Okay, this is something that the Deputy Treasurer has attended prior, because we are at the very beginning of a budget for when she'll be attending this. This is going to completely take away all of my budget for this coming year. So I'm going to make the motion to deny the Deputy Treasurer to attend this because she has the possibility to apply for scholarship. And I would prefer to use some scholarship monies before I use up all of my budget. So due to budget constraints, I am denying.
Formality.
Yeah.
We did this last year.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I just need a support to my denial.
You've already made the motion?
Motion to
Well, I'll
deny.
support that.
Okay.
It's been motioned and supported to deny the request of the Deputy Treasurer to attend the Michigan Municipal Treasurers Association Institute. Any further discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Ayes have it. Next, request to approve the bonuses and raises for hourly employees.
We want to, apparently in the past, we've given the new pay rate to employees in March.
Beginning March 1st.
Beginning of March.
So the last month of our fiscal year.
So this is just I did a calculation to show what the impact would be on our budget using the new pay rates. And we have bonuses in there as well. And the bottom line is it'd be around a $2,700 increase in payroll, but we have the money in the budget to cover it.
All the reviews have been done. A lot of this budgeted money was already approved last year to make sure that we get our employees up to speed, and
Everything's running like a well-oiled machine, Mr. Supervisor?
things have,
Everybody's doing their job, doing
you know,
what's
the
expected of
transition
them,
has occurred with
everything.
the new clerk, the plane's at altitude, and it's just soaring right
Well,
along
then,
with
you know,
autopilot.
you gotta keep that reward going, so.
How many employees
make a
are
motion.
there actually?
It's 4 full-time?
No,
No.
no, there's 6.
We have David
and Ross.
6 full-time.
That's what the assessing,
And then how many part-time? 3. 3?
Uh,
Oh, Nikki is temporary.
Well, yeah, no, we have Lori, Mary, and Maureen.
3, and then a temporary. Yeah.
Okay, I was just curious.
On how many for what the impact is.
Right.
Pretty small.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'll move to make the adjustments to the payroll as proposed here.
Support.
Been motioned and supported to approve the bonuses and raises for hourly employees. Any further discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Those opposed? Ayes have it. Next is request to approve the renewal of the SSL certificate for the township's web security. We need SSL authentication to make sure that we're a secure website. Each domain has a SSL certificate associated with it, and it's something that needs to be done.
Mm-hmm. Especially nowadays with the
Yeah.
hackers and
Is there anybody that opposes the
So
idea?
moved.
support.
It's been motioned and supported to approve the renewal of the SSL certificate for the township's web security. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Ayes have it. Next is discussion of the engineering proposals. Last board meeting, we wanted a pulse of who we liked, whose proposals that we liked, and I've tallied all the responses. I've shared them with Marna and Marcy, and the two that came out for the interview, based on the board's guideline, would be Spicer Engineering and Fleiss and Vanderbrick. So, unless anybody has any oppositions to those things, what I would like to do is schedule interviews with them. I would like to do this as an hour before our meeting, like we have been with our study groups or our work sessions. I would hope that each engineering firm would respect each other's time and allow them the privacy to interview with the township board. I'm assuming that we'll probably get to these
In March?
in
Mid-March.
March, April. And the only reason is because I know that David Walker is not going to be here, and I would like him to take part in that. And then that'll also put us right at the beginning of the budget year, where services have been budgeted for some of the things that we have coming up, and so I would like to do that. So
Sounds
I don't
good.
know if you have a specific date that you'd like to pick, or if you're open for either one. Okay, sounds good. So I will send both email to you, Mr. Nagy and Mr. Johnson, and we'll get these scheduled. We'll have them at 6. That gives us an hour. Please have your questions. I would expect that everybody has at least 2 questions that they would like to ask the engineer during the interview process. Have a couple extra ones in case we have more time, and that way we'll have ample time to do this, and then we can sit down and make a decision on where we'd like to go after the interviews have concluded. Fair enough?
You betcha.
Sounds good.
Okay.
Narrowed it down.
Yes.
It's very helpful if you would tell us what you expect during the interview, if you expect a presentation and time limits on that. If you want all Q&A, or you want a 10-minute presentation with Q&A after, or however you want it, it's very helpful for us, so then we do what you want to hear during
Right.
that time.
How do you guys feel about that? I think that we had some pretty robust proposals that did that. I mean, we could ask them for a presentation, or we could just ask them some questions, get to know them.
The proposals was a presentation.
Kind of.
Yes, they were.
Yeah.
If we read them properly, we'd have had their presentation. So whether or not, I think if it is a presentation, it should be brief. Should not, because I think the question and answer is going to be more
That's the
personal.
meat. That's the meat of it, yeah.
At this point, because that's the whole point of the interview.
So do you want to forego the presentation? You guys tell me, because I'm going to send it out.
There's a lot of information in the materials
I don't think
we
need a
got, so.
presentation.
Yeah.
You know, I'd like to ask them each one the same questions and see how they respond to them, and get a pulse, and see how their personalities and stuff line up with ours, see how their responses line up with ours, and find out what's the best fit.
Yeah, I think so.
So we'll just leave it to Q&A time.
As far as questions asked, I know I'm going to have questions I'm going to want to ask. Do we want to have a list of standardized questions gotten together before that, so that they're asked the same questions? Or how do we want to?
I would think that every board member should have at least 2 questions that they're going to ask both firms. And we could compile the list of them.
Or do what you were saying before, we'll just have a list of questions ready, each of us. That's mine too.
Yep, I had asked for everybody to email me their questions. I got a couple of them. Re-email them to me and I'll compile them and then I can ask the questions or we could take turns asking them, whatever. But I would like to at least, at minimum, have 14 questions to ask. And I think that right there should,
Should cover a lot. Yeah.
this should be able to cover a lot. And if I see a question, then I might kick one back if I don't feel that it's,
Relevant. Or duplicated.
I'll actually have Marcy and Marna look at them and we'll make a determination on whether we need more context or additional questions. Fair enough?
You bet.
Okay. So if you could get those to me right away, that would be, within the next, in a week. So by a week from Wednesday morning, that would be great.
On Thursday.
Oh, yeah, you're gonna be.
I'm leaving tomorrow morning for a week.
I gotcha. So, and we've already done the discussion on the, well, you need something to do on the plane.
Right.
I was only kidding, though. So that concludes our new business. We have no miscellaneous business and.
Oh, this training thing.
For Ross.
Oh, that was good. I had them put on the next agenda, but we can cover it. This is officials training. It's site plan review. It's planning and zoning sessions. Ross hasn't been to any training since he's been in his position, and I don't recall what the fee was for this. It was $100.
Oh, that's well
So-
within the budget.
Well within the budget, so I will go ahead and make the motion to approve.
Support.
Who are you gonna send?
Yeah, he needs
Okay.
to go to these.
Yes. So it's been motioned and supported to approve the request of the zoning administrator to go to officials training. Any further discussion?
He
All in-
needs it.
All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, that motion carries. No miscellaneous business, public remarks.
I want to commend you guys for that, talk of what you did with that young lady. I mean, it was hard. I wish I was here. I wish you here a lot this last couple of years. I haven't been here. If I'd have saw that, I would have went through the roof. November 15th, most people have their windows shut anyway. I mean, by that point. I do leaves in the fall. I have lawn service. And this year was extraordinarily deep. I mean, some of my customers, I still do some on the side. I got past Thanksgiving doing it. So that gives you some kind of indication with our warmer years. So, I mean, you guys did fine. I mean, pat you on the back. You couldn't go any further than that. I mean, it's kind of hard. But get rid of it, please. I mean, it's stupid. I mean, I'm sorry if it's stupid. I mean, but it's not your fault. You didn't.
Yeah. Well, and I understand what you're saying, and I agree a lot with what you're saying.
Yeah.
One of the issues and the biggest complaints that I got is people do not know how to burn leaves correctly. They'll rake up a pile of wet leaves
Wet.
and it'll burn
They're
for
always
3
wet.
days
Well,
and
the problem-
smoke out the whole neighborhood.
Like I talked to you about, I gotta call my neighbor 18,000 times.
And-
he leaves it smoldering for 3 days, and it's not leaves, it's just wet wood. I mean, the rain out there, it stinks, but I didn't know that, Rob. Chances are someone, this neighbor called on, or she wouldn't have never saw it.
Probably.
All right.
All right, thanks.
Mike, I got a question for you. And I know you brought this up, and you're all in and on, and I know you're going ahead with this road project, this village, with this road. Now, a lot of people, are just like, they didn't.
Oh, wait, the survey? Our road survey?
Yeah, your
Oh,
survey.
okay, the survey. All
Got
right.
all the results.
No, I know, but
Yeah.
this is why, I know it's coming. Okay.
I'm glad you do, because I don't.
You were gonna put together a panel of people to.
I haven't put together any.
No, I understand it, but you were talking about it. I just wanted to.
If that's what, if
you guys go.
if the survey sends us in a direction that, hey, our residents want this, then that's how it works.
Survey
It's
says.
weird because before the first of the year, even before election time, it was amazing how many people did not know that they're gonna get a gas tax
Right.
and a registration fee. And on top of that, what blew my mind, my mom and dad's birthdays fell within the first 6 months. The loophole.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, I want to say the whole word. I mean, how do you get a loophole so half of the population of Michigan
Buys in.
don't get a registration fee for the first 6 months? Come on, this is what's wrong with America. I mean, set it for the first of the year, everybody, I mean, come on. But anyways, I go through the rules.
And I can only deal with what happens at the township and what we're legally obligated to.
But I can just see the registration fees, we should have money to fix these roads.
Right.
I mean, I keep telling people tonight, they didn't realize they were gonna get charged for the drains. I knew that, but until he stood up and told them, then they're gonna get the road on top of that. And then a road village? Ooh. They're gonna go through.
Oh, yeah, it's like,
If we decide to do that.
right.
I mean,
Yeah.
but thanks, guys, you guys did a wonderful job.
Thanks, Scott.
Well, that was the main purpose of the public hearing, was so that
they knew
could
about
be
the drain.
informed, because I talked to several of them that did not know about that drain project, and that's why I thought it was really important that they have all of the facts.
Like I said, I've been sitting at a lot of meetings here for years.
Somebody had to initiate the proposal for the road.
Yeah, but they don't know.
They did, but with no
They
idea about this
initiated
drain
the whole-
thing.
Well,
Yeah.
See, Lake Shannon got into that over there.
I'm not gonna split hairs with somebody, but I will say that once we were aware of it, the communication was communicated.
Yes.
Yeah, well, I didn't like
Where
that.
it went
I
after
thought
that,
like I said, the road, if they go to the county's gonna go Cadillac, because they did that on White Lake Road. We got underground tile, they're not gonna just go slab black.
Yeah, there is that curb, yeah, there is all that over there, yeah.
When they go
but
to
that
the county,
subdivision already has curbing, doesn't it? Or no?
No.
I don't think
They're
so.
gonna tear it all
Yeah,
up.
but it's got-
and do it. It's gonna be the Cadillac.
Well,
I don't know why they just don't put speed bumps in there, it would stop all your side traffic.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, the road's
Yeah.
deep.
They
But
won't
then
want
again,
to
if
deal
it's a
with that.
county road and a thoroughfare, then they
Trucker's not
can't.
gonna wanna go down speed
I'll tell
bumps.
you now, I wouldn't put that blacktop or do anything in there until they get that drain situation.
Yeah.
But that's gonna be all tore up again.
can we adjourn the meeting now?
Yeah,
Yeah.
All right.
Okay. Motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
Need a support. Al supported.
All right, it's been motion and support to adjourn the meeting. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Ayes have it, meeting's adjourned.
Woo, that was a good meeting. He seconded the adjournment, yeah.
Hey, Terry, before you leave,
Man, that turned out great.
Yeah, it did.
I
Actually,
feel
no,
bad
I
that
No.
I feel bad that they.
I seen his little, there's a
I
John
think
Deere.
we've had a couple
You had to
go
stick it
after
a
them,
whole
but it wasn't really. This is the one.
My dad's picked one.
Oh,
My
yeah.
dad's new one, the four-wheel drive one.
No, you got a brand new one?
You know, because
Oh, it's got the
was
4x4,
okay with
yeah, I've
the
seen
How
that.
you doing, Phil?
I see
Did
that. You talk
we
about power.
kill ya?
But
I
you
get
don't
that thing going,
want
so
to
the other one was smaller.
Yeah.
They had the hydrostatic where you just back and forth. This one here, you put, talk about power.
He's lived here for a long time.
I mean, he's
Yeah.
got front tires are like that.
It was
Sorry, I
this
didn't
year
have to
the
push him
lease
out the
came
door.
How
out.
much longer he's gonna go?
Yeah, I know ours
It's
talking about
Anthony,
that.
I've gotten a couple like that,
years.
so.
About 80 years old.
we get a lot of leaves that are
I know I got,
Meeting.
no, one time, this was a long
So
time
it'll be
ago, I got
our,
this.
it'll be the rate, not the
Yeah.
per diem amount, okay.
He's had all kinds of
Okay.
stuff.
just want to make sure.
Body panel heat.
Yeah, because he was a body man.
We give her drugs on the place.
Oh my God,
What she does, she won't do anything on the plate.
nothing will get done.
I figured she already lived.
My brother's third generation.
You guys have a wonderful
Yeah,
time.
hope you have safe travels out
And you know
there.
what? Forget about us.
Yes,
Last time I saw you,
definitely.
Over for
getting back in shape.
2 days, you got it.
I know, for
Oh,
today,
so
they
that
all
you fell or
down.
something?
We've,
We'll get
I'm
it.
gonna really worry about you guys.
let her, okay? Let her enjoy.
I think she will. How could you not?
Where are you going? Where's everybody going?
Once she gets on the plane, she'll be fine.
It'll be,
Let's go to Hawaii for only a week.
And once we get out there,
That's all the rules for
Yeah.
cities for roads.
on the sand, ocean, yep.
Every township I'm aware of uses.
Are you doing a cruise out there, or are you staying on an island, or?
And it all spells out. It
No,
spells out.
I'm not, I'm done.
we're going out
I
there
quit.
because
Some of the
I'm out.
rules for it.
my great.
Did I say something wrong?
Okay, here we go again.
First birthday. No, the only
Oh,
thing is,
wait, so you're going, there's family
by
there.
statute,
What's that?
They have family out
you
there.
guys can go
My whole
5%,
family-
I think it's 5%
Wow.
over cost,
So this isn't just the leisurely vacation, you got a lot of visiting to do.
according to that act.
Yeah, I would
My nephew,
urge them to wait to find out what the train is.
well, the reason.
Then we get our
they're having the
estimates,
first birthday
then move
out there.
forward with it, so our bond estimates.
Hawaiian
are great.
tradition, they don't celebrate births.
Okay.
They celebrate
You too,
first
sorry.
birthdays because
Good
of
seeing you.
legacy.
I don't have that spreadsheet in here.
So, and I know from
I
doing
can't
stuff
get
with
into
county in
it
the
right
past,
now.
those are probably estimates based
Okay.
on.
So it's
So
a big
now,
deal if
like,
they did.
light,
No, let's, I can
Yeah.
call.
True Life, you made it here first year.
Get an
His wife.
I was wondering why you're sticking around so far.
Going to work this morning, I'm like,
They have rented,
And then when I
Yes,
get
can we
back,
check my lunch
then
today?
I will
there's three
recalculate the
cabins,
percentage.
or three buildings on it.
Phone numbers on
about
here?
$5 off one of our
Addresses, so
staff
even
members.
if,
Wow.
yeah, you guys are gonna be partying.
My family parties anyways.
There you go.
but if
That's
that's
awesome.
us, we could
My
at
wife
least get
and I
them
are
a
going
letter,
to
so
end
you
of
could
April, so-
Are you really going to Hawaii?
Yeah.
It's either go home
We're gonna do the
and sit there for
cruise,
2 hours.
stop it on there.
I'm kind of mad
And I go to
because
sleep when I have a long
I'm gonna be
meeting, a
married
lot going on.
25 years in
It's
May,
great.
and we
It's-
went to Hawaii on our honeymoon, and like, I don't think the
It's our
Hawaii
25th
trip,
Not go home and go to bed.
I don't think that's
I have to
gonna be
decompress. I don't know what it is.
We'll be there on our
That's the other thing.
anniversary, so we're gonna
Is Marcy's 30th anniversary,
Oh, so you really have a lot of things to celebrate.
but it's in April, so this is.
close,
This
pretty
is kind of
close.
part of
We
it.
didn't go to Hawaii.
We didn't go to Hawaii already, but so I should just shut up and enjoy that I at least was there once.
Yeah, right. We haven't been there before,
Never been
so,
there?
yeah.
Oh,
So
okay.
it'll be nice.
But my sister and sister-in-law,
my wallet either.
aunt and uncle.
I really, I
But here, you guys can take my wallet, I'll go home.
Drive Kelly's truck today?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
That's what we're doing. Oh, okay.
You too? Did you drive Kelly's truck?
I got my truck.
Well, have fun.
It's gonna be rough.
Think you
Thanks
can
for
get
sitting
through
through
it?
all that, Phil.
No problem.
Phew.
It was interesting.
Yeah, it was. Now we know what kind of questions to ask you.
We have to South is closed.
It had to be her because.
That was like a planning commission meeting.
Yeah, no doubt. Wow.
Phone call there.
Penalty box? Penalty box?
I'll just leave this for you then, and then.
I will sit there for 2 hours.
John. Yeah, John's.
Yeah, Joe and Louis,
I guess
penalty
you could
box.
try Chuck, but John's better.
You're going to Hawaii for only a week?
Gonna adjust your.
For only a week.
That's gonna take you half a week to get there.
Takes you a full day.
I know, I played
Well,
that
the worst
game.
part is you
Oh,
lose
it's
the
actually
time
gone
coming
down a couple
back.
hours. Of course, the last time I was there in 1986. They're flying fast.
Just to Chicago and then 10 and a half hours to Chicago.
Just
from
stick your
Chicago
toes in the
right
warm
from
sand
Chicago.
and
straight.
wait an
I bet
extra
you
minute
are.
for
Coming
me.
back, we stopped in San Francisco.
Yeah, we stopped in California both times, but going there. and coming
That's
back.
what,
That's
I think
probably
ours
what
did that
12 hours
too.
was.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's probably a little
So
longer.
long.